across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good afternoon. It is 3 minutes past 1. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins. And breaking this afternoon, a BBC investigation reveals that cynical human rights lawyers are teaching illegal immigrants to pretend to be gay in order to remain in the country. Meanwhile, the government have moved 10,000 migrants out of hotels into houses of multiple occupancy. But my question to you this afternoon is a simple one. Is moving migrants into our communities the answer? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. You can text the word talk and your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. Meanwhile, the Reform UK Shadow Chancellor Robert Jenrick has called for the parents of Axel Rudakubana to be deported. Is he right? And Britain is set to be the worst performing economy in the G7. Inflation is heading upwards. Unemployment has returned with a vengeance. Growth is non-existent. We are flirting with recession. Can Rachel Reeves survive a fresh economic crisis? Now, I'm delighted to say that you can hear the show on DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch us. Head to YouTube and search Talk, and up we pop. You'll be able to see our amazing guests. And we've got a packed show today, so much to get through. But I really want to have this conversation this afternoon. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? 0344 499 1000. Faith is taking your calls. Jana is directing our TV output. Jana, give the camera a bit of a wobble. Come on, let's show them we're live. I've been in telly for 25 years. All of it's scripted. It's so fake. We're keeping it real here at Talk. The boss today is Finlay, who, let me tell you, he rules with an iron fist. It's an unusual look, but it suits him. Pressing the buttons, Amy, as the saying goes, let's talk. And I just love that music. It's just as chilled out as Ian Collins, who I'm thoroughly enjoying on breakfast this morning. So much to get through, a big 3 hours. We'll kick off with Dolan's Dispatch. Am I living in a parallel universe? Am I missing something? The government think that they have solved illegal immigration, which is an economic, national security and humanitarian disaster, by moving people who have entered the country illegally from hotels into the community. You heard me right. They're going to go from hotels into the community, a street where you live or close by. Now, the use of hotels was a catastrophe because in many towns and cities, hotels are a social hub. They're a focal point of the community. People have had their weddings in the local hotel, funerals, christenings, maybe their first date, maybe their first kiss happened in the local hotel. So these buildings, these local hotels, are packed with memories. So accommodating migrants in these often iconic local spots comes at a real cost to the local population. So migrant hotels, completely wrong. Then there's the eye-watering cost, of course. It's a sick joke, isn't it, that we've got ex-military personnel sleeping rough on the streets, whilst those who entered our country illegally on a small boat are sometimes accommodated in 3- and 4-star hotels, with spending money 3 meals a day, access to a GP, dentistry, and freedom to roam the streets. So the hotels has been a disaster, and we've got to blame the Tories for that. It started under the Consocialists. But this devious government, this awful, egregious, wretched Labour government, will have you believe that they've tackled the issue by moving these criminals, because that's what they are, they've broken the law, into streets where we live. Into streets where you and I live. Now, how does accommodating migrants whose backgrounds we know nothing about because they've chucked their documents into the sea, how does accommodating them in homes of multiple occupancy make any of us safer? How does it in any way solve the problem? It's arguably worse. Because as this problem fails to go away, with upwards of 70,000 people having infiltrated our borders since Keir Smash the Gang Starmer entered number 10, more and more people are going to have houses packed full of illegal immigrants next door to them. Now, what happens if you're a young couple, you got engaged, maybe you just had your wedding, you've been saving up for, you know, the wedding, and then you've got your deposit on a house and you move in to a little flat or a house, and next door is a house of multiple occupancy packed with migrants. Is that optimal? Is that what we want? And will the people who have to live on a street that's got a house of multiple occupancy, will they want their kids to play in the streets or walk to school on their own? And what's going to happen inside these houses of multiple occupancy? Who's going to control the behaviour of these people who are predominantly young men, not particularly highly educated, with no job and nothing to do at all? What's going to happen in these HMOs? Well, the houses are going to be a complete mess. They're going to stink. It's going to be fast food, isn't it? Netflix, paid for by you and I, playing loud music, praying to their God, whoever that is. It's going to be a literal madhouse. Smoking weed in the garden, having barbecues, eating God knows what animals. I'm serious, folks. Do you want to live next door to a house of multiple occupancy, packed with people who have entered the country illegally? Make it make sense. So, hotels, HMOs, army barracks. The issue is not where these people go. It doesn't matter where they go. It's the fact that they're here in the first place. So I don't care how many levers we have to pull to stop illegal immigration, because it is about supply. It's not about where they go. It's about stopping the supply. So I don't care if we tear up the ECHR. In fact, I'm willing. Let's just pretend quickly. Let's do this now. Let me just write ECHR on here. ECHR. There you go. This is to illustrate my point. This is the ECHR. You probably can't see it because I've written it in pink ink. I like pink. It's a very colourful. Here's what I think of the ECHR. Okay? It's the most beautiful thing. I mean, it's just made my day because the weather's terrible. It's raining. It's miserable. The economy's in the toilet. But it's really cheered me up to tear up the ECHR. And I'll do it every time I'm on air just to make that point. So I don't care how many levers we have to pull. We tear up the ECHR, tear up the Refugee Convention, which has been abused, break every international law going. That's what we've got to do, folks. Britain has got to break international law. Doesn't that sound amazing? Let's break international law. The boats have got to be stopped unilaterally. I don't care if we become a global pariah, okay? More shamed on the international community than Iran, China and North Korea combined. I don't care. An extra incentive, by the way, to tackle this catastrophic problem of illegal immigration is the news today that cynical and crooked lawyers are teaching illegal immigrants to pretend to be gay in order to remain in the country. How ironic, given that some of these men come from such medieval and backward cultures that actually at home, if they were gay, they'd be murdered. But pretend to be gay in Britain and it's the golden ticket. By the way, this will shock you. This research about dodgy lawyers teaching migrants to be gay to circumvent the system comes from, wait for it, are you ready for this? It's not Talk. It's not GB News. It's not the Daily Mail or the Telegraph. The BBC have done this investigation. Maybe our national state broadcaster has finally woken up. It is time for all of us to wake up to this problem. The boats must stop and legal migration must come down to almost zero so that this country can recover its infrastructure, recover its economy, recover its society and recover its national identity. Because mass, uncontrolled legal and illegal immigration is the theft of a country from its own people. Enough is enough. 0344 499 1000. The problem I've got is that document wasn't the ECHR. It was the running order of the show. I don't know what's happening. We're in trouble, folks. It is 12 minutes past 1. I know who's going to pick up the slack. It is Chloe Dobbs, fearless broadcaster and journalist. Great to see you in the studio.
Great to see you, Mark.
I think it's missing the point to move illegal immigrants from hotels into our communities. The issue we've got, the elephant in the room, is the supply. The boats keep coming.
I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out, but clearly the people in Downing Street are so dumb that they think when they hear the public saying we want the hotels closed, they think, we know what the public want. They just want them to move into HMOs instead. No, they're obviously saying we want the hotels shut because they don't want these people in their communities at all. And they want the boats to stop, but they just don't seem to get that. And they think that we're stupid. They think that they can play all these tricks to play with the numbers. So, for example, not just what they're doing, closing these 11 hotels, but doing things like buying hotels and then changing the name of that building so it's no longer technically a hotel.
Can I just recommend that you move your hair away from the microphone, because you've got do you know your hair?
You never have this problem as a man.
No, your hair is a little bit like.
Being told off for it.
First of all, I mean you're extremely bright person. And full of common sense. And you've got these flowing locks.
But sometimes they can't hear my common sense because my locks are in the way.
Correct.
But anyway, it's
your hairdo is so impressive. it would have Jennifer Aniston jealous, actually. From
really?
Friends, yeah.
Oh wow, that's quite a compliment.
But anyway, so your point is, by the way, we do have a microphone issue here. It's actually neither of us. There's something's going on. We've got a little bit of a squeak on the line here, but we're going to get that fixed. And in order to fill the airtime, should we have a listen to our glorious leader, Sir Keir Starmer? Take it away, Amy.
I want to end asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament. Well, that's what our manifesto commitment was. No, I know, and therefore I've said to the system, to the relevant departments, I want to see that brought forward. I want to shorten that. As soon as possible, but no longer the end of Parliament. Bring it forward. I want us to close hotels. I think over coming months you'll see evidence of that.
What's worse, illegal immigrants being accommodated in a hotel or in a neighbourhood?
I think probably equally bad. The hotels, first of all, they cost a heck of a lot of money. The way that they have swayed these hotel owners, some of these hotel owners, they don't care, they'll take the money, but some of them have made a really hard decision, and it's just, and they don't want to have to, for example, fire all of their hard-working staff to bring in just Home Office staff. They don't want to wreak havoc in the communities, but there comes a point where the money is so good, and of course the hospitality industry was brought nearly to breaking point by COVID. A lot of these places desperately needed the money, that they took it. So the measures that they say that we're going to shave, I think, about $1 billion a year off the cost of housing these asylum seekers because of moving them into barracks and HMOs. Interesting also that they just talk about the barracks in this news announcement. They don't mention the HMOs, but we know that includes HMOs. So if it saves a bit of money, great. But we know that this is not just going to mean that they're still in the communities wreaking havoc. As you say, without even the oversight of hotel staff then in the building, they're going to be smoking weed and all sorts, no doubt. But it also wreaks havoc in the rental market, especially as a young person. I think one of the biggest pain points for young people at the moment is that it is so bloody expensive to live anywhere. And when you've got Serco offering 5 years guaranteed rent, guaranteed all the maintenance done for you, and offering like 20% above market rates to landlords, again, just like the hotels, a lot of these landlords, that they're going to bite, they're going to take it. And that is not going to make people happy when they are getting up every single day to try and make money, go to work, and they can't find somewhere to live while someone who's just rocked up on a boat is getting it all paid for by the government.
Well, that's our conversation today. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Our number is 03444991000. The brilliant Faith is taking your calls, so book your place on the show. I want to have this conversation today. Surely the elephant in the room is supply. Who cares where these folk go? The boats have got to stop. Well, of course, we've had 70,000 since Sir Keir Smash the gang's Starmer got into number 10. When is this going to end? Have I gone too far in the Dolan's dispatch? Am I being unreasonable? Are you happy to see illegal immigrants coming into the community in houses of multiple occupancy? Is that the kind of country we are, to welcome people seeking refuge, fleeing for their lives? Let's have that conversation. This is Talk.
it's pretty clear that the ceasefire, such as it exists, is not going to hold for very long. But, you know, the thing that worries me, Julia, which you guys have been touching on already, is just the amount of misinformation we are being subjected to on an hourly basis every single day. I mean, the idea that Israel is just, you know, like a lunatic bombing Lebanon for fun is complete claptrap. Hezbollah has fired tens of thousands of missiles at Israel over the past 2.5 years.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Fantastic to have your company. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins for the next 2 weeks, plus Talk Breakfast at the weekend as well. So it's really, really brilliant to be here. And I'm so glad I am, because I can use this platform to call out the madness of this government and the direction of the country, which is down, 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 right? Our culture, our society, our economy, policing. I'm sick to the back teeth every day of reading about another stabbing in a city centre, and it ain't just London, folks. It's across the country. Something's got to change. A big reaction to today's Dolan's dispatch. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer, is our question. This from Brad, who says, good afternoon, Mark. When will they understand? This is not about location. It's about numbers, security, culture, infrastructure, and the economy. Hotels, HMOs, social housing, or army camps. We just don't want any more immigration, particularly the illegal kind. Well, Brad, I think you speak for many, many people on that one. Fern in Glasgow. Good afternoon, Fern. How are you? Thank you for watching the show. Beautiful city is Glasgow, I've got to say. I studied up in Edinburgh, but I used to enjoy my trips into Glasgow. And Fern says, Mark, every migrant hotel being emptied should be put on a public register and face a public boycott that puts them out of business. No former staff should return to work in them, nor anyone unemployed work in them either. I've got to tell you that there is an absolute scandal waiting to emerge about what's been going on in those migrant hotels, because I've had well-placed sources tell me that the cleaners in migrant hotels, the women that go in there and clean on the minimum wage, are having to go in pairs and in threes to make sure that they're safe when they take care of migrant accommodation. They can't go in alone. Welcome to the madhouse. These lovely people, the doctors and engineers, they're all off now to a neighbourhood near you. Chloe Dobbs is with me in the studio, broadcaster, journalist and social media sensation. And Chloe, isn't it notable that it's the BBC whose research has brought to light the fact that crooked lawyers are advising migrants to pretend to be gay to stay? What does it tell us that the BBC is now reporting on a story like that?
I was honestly shocked that this came out of the BBC, and I rarely give credit to the BBC, but I'll give them credit where credit is due.
This is great journalism.
It was great undercover journalism, and I think a lot of us have thought for a long time that it smells a bit fishy, the fact that there are just so many gay Christians turning up on our shores, and we've seen these videos, for example, I don't know if you remember the video of the priest in Wales taking droves of migrants into the ocean to baptise them, because apparently they're all converted Christians who are going to be persecuted in their own country, and then they were all coming out gay, and it all seemed a bit fishy, but people would call you homophobic or whatever if you dared question it. But this now shows exactly what we suspected, which is that there are people simply scamming the system and getting dodgy lawyers to help them. And we've known that, for example, people are one of the ways that people are getting into the UK, other than the boats, is that they can pay something like 20k to get fake papers, basically, and then they come on a flight rather than on a boat. And then here we've got the dodgy lawyers charging something like £7,000, I think it is, was the price that was shown in this BBC journalism here, to get the paperwork and the evidence. I mean, it's being gay is something that's hard to evidence, but they do some kind of paperwork for them, and attending events such as they showed this in the in the report on the BBC was attending events like there was an Eid celebration for LGBT plus asylum seekers. If you go to that, it kind of proves that you're gay, apparently. And then the journalist asked some of the people outside after, are you guys actually gay? And they say, and the guy said, no, not even 1% of us, not even 0.1% of us, not even 0.01% of us are gay. And those people, I wouldn't be surprised if the vast majority of people in there are actually homophobic, because I think the reality is that even moderate Muslims, many of them, they still see homosexuality as a sin, even if they're moderate to the extent that they're willing to tolerate the fact that there are gay people in society. They still see them as sinful and think they're going to go to hell for it.
100%.
Right?
It's an ultra-conservative religion. It just is. And isn't it ironic that the woke progressive left are all in with Islam, given how ultra-conservative and illiberal it actually is?
I know. I mean, look at what's happening in the Green Party. The fact that you have got Zach Polanski leading a party as both a gay and Jewish man, teaming up with these people who probably, many of which are both homophobic and anti-Semitic, is absolutely beyond me. I mean, it's one thing. Yeah. It's one thing any woke leftist doing whatever they need to get votes, but someone who is both gay and Jewish teaming up with these people is, I can't even comprehend what is going through his head.
No, that's right. Zach Polanski, leader of the Green Party, Captain Cleavage himself. Mick in Southend says, I presume all the HMOs are in Canal Street, Manchester. This from an unnamed texter. Mark, I'm really annoyed with this now, beyond angry. I just want to say to my fellow countrymen and women that feel the same, this is not our fault. We've been totally let down by decades of indecision and poor leadership. Our politicians are a total disgrace, and it's them who are responsible for this, not us. It has to change. We must do something that changes the direction of travel. I've had enough. What a brilliantly worded message. Cliff has said, good afternoon, Mark, and hello, Chloe. The clue is in the name, illegal immigrant. The problem is that once you have one HMO in an area, more will follow because ordinary people won't want to live near one, and the value of properties will diminish. The remaining former homes will be sold off and purchased by would-be HMO landlords, eventually creating ghetto areas. You are a young person that would like to get on the housing ladder. What do you make of another story, which just emerged a few weeks ago, that new builds are being earmarked for migrants? So not only is scarce property being used to accommodate people that have broken into the country, there are currently housing projects under construction that will not go to people born in this country.
I know. I mean, if you are,
are you cool with that?
No, not at all. Especially, as I said...
Are you on the housing ladder? Are you a landlord? Have you got a bunch of properties?
No, and I'd be even if I had the money to buy a house, I'd be very squeamish about buying one, thinking, am I going to invest years and years of savings into purchasing a property and go through the whole process, which can often take years, right, of buying a house, to then find out potentially right after that the Home Office opens up a big HMO on my road, and then it brings down the value of the property. It makes it a very risky investment then, so it's potentially going to wreak even more havoc in the property market. And it's completely taking the mickey that you have got Brits crying out for more houses for them, and also particularly with social housing, the waiting list is absolutely crazy, and so many of them are given to foreign nationals. I think it's 48% of social housing in London is for foreign nationals, and when you've got these new projects which Brits desperately need being handed to people who haven't worked hard in this country, who haven't paid in this country, it's evil, I think, from the government.
Well, I completely agree, and it's important to blame not just Keir Starmer and this Labour government. It's important to blame Theresa May, David Cameron, of course, Boris Johnson, particularly the Boris wave. It started under the Tories. Don't forget that. Johnny says, Johnny's in Carlisle and says, hello, Mark and Chloe. It's like the government are deaf to our needs. We do not want these people in the country, let alone in a hotel or a nearby house. They have no right to be here. Lisa says, my local cathedral had many immigrant men attending Sunday Mass. They were baptised just before Easter, and now none have returned. Presumably they were faking it. Lisa, the problem we've got, and thank you for telling me that, these woke clerics, especially the Church of England, who have gone incredibly ultra-progressive liberal now, I think they've got such an ego. They're flattered that there are people that want to convert to Christianity, not realising that they are the useful idiots of an illegal enterprise.
Yeah, I think that there is a great void of tough love in the world at the moment, and hard truths, because you've got these many of these people who have the kindest hearts, right? If you decide that you want to dedicate your life to the church and spreading Christianity and love, peace and joy and everything that comes with that, you are probably a lovely, lovely person that tries to always see the good in people. But that is what I would call suicidal empathy, where you're so kind to people that you fail to look at things for what they are and see reality and recognise that actually some people are bad people, some people have bad intentions, and some people are going to take advantage of you, your country and your church if you just have this utopian view that everybody in the world is a kind, loving person, and if they turn up at your church saying they want to convert, that they genuinely mean it. Not everybody is honest and not everybody is nice. That's just the reality, and you're seeing it also with the Pope, with this spat with Donald Trump. You know, very typical the Pope to say, oh, we don't want any wars are evil, stop the war, but they fail to see the pragmatic reality that perhaps you're going to end up with the whole of humanity annihilated if Iran ended up with a nuclear weapon. But they can't see, you know, they can't tell any hard truths and live pragmatically, I don't think.
I think you've absolutely nailed it. Big response to today's Dolan's dispatch. Graham Johnston says, Mark, thank you for your dispatch. We clapped. If we could all just print off your message, sign it and send it to Starmer, perhaps the thousands of pieces of paper would fill up the empty space between Starmer's ears. Thank you from Graham in Bedfordshire. Another unnamed texter. Thank you for the dispatch. You speak for all sane people. And let's get to another story, because we've, of course, had further evidence that the family of Axel Rudakubana were complicit in his crimes, having signed for a machete delivered to their front door, knowing that their son had ricin, which is a dangerous toxin, knowing their son had an arsenal of weapons and an Al-Qaeda manual. Here's Kemi Badenoch, leader of the opposition, implying that the parents could be deported.
These were people who were refugees to our country. They fled a horrific genocide. They know what violence looks like. And when they saw that someone in their household was very likely to do the same to other people's children, they did nothing. I think that is appalling. I think that they have a lot of questions to answer, and I think we should look at every possible avenue to see what we can do, if not from a criminal side, then potentially even from an immigration side. Rwanda is a safe country now. I mean, if they don't have citizenship here, then I think we should be looking at whether they should be going back there.
Now, does that feel like a moment to you, Chloe, that the leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, suggesting the parents of Axel Rudakubana could be deported?
I would completely agree with her and with Jemrick, who has said the same. I think that they are culpable to a significant extent. Of course, Axel Rudakubana is the one who, you know, at the end of the day, committed the crimes, but they had not just one, but many, many, many opportunities to stop him, not just in the lead-up when they knew that he was planning an attack on the school, the week before. They knew that he was collecting machetes, and then on the day of the attack, when he went out, very strangely, of course, in that taxi to go to that school, the mother found right after he went out the door, found the packet for a brand new knife. She found it, I think, in the bin, and she should have right then called the police and said, my son's just gone out, he's just opened a knife, but she didn't do it. And of course, I have a tiny bit of sympathy in that mums they always love their children and they find it very hard to believe that their children would do anything wrong. But when you've got that stack of evidence, you've got to give your kids tough love and call them in and call the authorities and allow them to be arrested, because she could have, and the parents could have saved those little girls' lives if they did the right thing. And I think that we need, just generally in society, more parental responsibility rather than putting all the responsibilities for children on the state.
Most definitely. Well, I think Rudakubana is sick, and I think his parents are sick as well, because if you can sign for a machete and know that your kid has an arsenal of weapons and you don't step in, then you're part of the problem. Chloe, great to see you in the studio. I know you're here every Wednesday with Ian, aren't you?
Yes, well, maybe we'll see you next week.
Well, yes, unfortunately for everyone, I'm here for 2 weeks, so I'll see you a week today. Keep dropping those truth bombs. The brilliant Chloe Dobbs. Folks, so much more to come. A really busy show today. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Leslie is one of many of the viewers and listeners to this show suggesting that we should boycott hotels that accommodated migrants. Leslie says, Mark, no one should go back to frequenting those hotels where migrants were previously housed. Andrew in Derbyshire says, on immigrant housing, what they failed to mention is the British families displaced to make way for immigrants. My son, his wife and children were issued an S21 notice to leave their property. The landlord then contracted with Serco and moved asylum seekers in. British working taxpayers are being made homeless to accommodate unknown young men about whom we know nothing. It's a national disgrace. That's Andrew Granger. Andrew, thank you for that. And I'm really sorry to hear what your son and his wife have been going through. It's a scandal. Let's speak to a very good friend of mine, the former Home Office Minister, Norman Baker. Norman, great to see you again.
Hello, Mark.
Now, of course, the migrant hotels were very unpopular and very costly. The government's efforts to tackle that have seen upwards of 10,000 men accommodated in homes of multiple occupancy, disused army barracks, etc. But the elephant in the room, Norman, is supply, isn't it? The boats keep coming.
Well, they do. And I think the question is whether they're in the hotels or whether they're in HMOs or somewhere else, to an extent, Mark, is looking at the problem to the wrong end of the telescope.
Yeah.
Because the right end of the telescope is how many people are coming here, and sorting that out is actually a key to the problem. Secondly, when we do get people arriving here, then we need to make sure they're processed quickly. Not sometimes they're taking months or years to be processed, and therefore the numbers who are here are artificially inflated due to the failure of the Home Office to process these matters properly and quickly. So that needs to be sorted out. You know, there's a policy under the previous Conservative government, at least when I was there and later on, to slow down the processing because that was deemed to be a deterrent. I mean, ludicrous policy, but that was what the mindset was. We need to get people processed very, very quickly. If they're entitled to stay, then let's get them assimilated into society, working and paying taxes. If they're not, then let's have them deported. It's as simple as that. And let's also make sure that there's an appeal process, of course, but one appeal, not multiple appeals.
Given your deep experience in this matter, can you explain to me why people that enter the country via a small boat have freedom when they arrive here?
Well, legally, when people arrive here, the method by which they arrive is not relevant. I mean, whether they arrive on a boat or on the back of a lorry or on a chartered plane or whatever, shouldn't determine whether or not they are a genuine asylum seeker or not. Obviously, if they are processed quickly, then the Home Office can make a decision as to whether or not they are a risk to society. A great many will not be, of course, but some will be. So in an ideal world, what you would do is you would keep them in a secure accommodation. You process them within a month.
Bingo.
And then you assimilate them or deport them.
Oh, wait a minute. We found a landing ground here, Norman. So you would share the view of many of my viewers and listeners that if you've entered the country via a small boat or in the back of a lorry, etc., that you are incarcerated whilst your claim is looked at.
I think that's only sensible, provided, of course, that the Home Office gets its act together and processes people quickly, because you cannot incarcerate people for months or years without processing them. So I think there's a duty on the Home Office to sort itself out. And I think if it does sort itself out, then that is a process which can be justified, I think, in law.
Because, Norman, it is, would you not say, mystifying that people land on our shores without documentation, so we don't know their background. Some of them are decent people seeking a better life who would like to make a contribution. I get that. Let's not demonise everybody. But a portion, however small, may have a criminal record, may have terror links. Does it mystify you that at the moment, under the status quo, these folk are roaming the streets? I mean, can you process that in your mind?
Well, I think there's potential, obviously, for misdemeanors to occur and for illegality to occur. It's a case that many people, genuine people actually, will arrive with no documentation because they may have had to leave the country in a hurry to avoid being arrested or persecuted or even killed. And therefore, they may not have any documentation. Others will have destroyed documentation in order to demonstrate that they are perhaps minors, they claim to be minors, when actually they're adults. So it's very difficult to actually assess whether or not someone's claim is genuine immediately there and then. So the point is, you probably do need to keep them in a secure accommodation, but process them quickly. But today's news is BBC exposure, which they've had, about whether or not people are claiming to be gay when they're not. I mean, there's two things wrong with that. One is it's a total abuse of the asylum system for advisors, immigration advisors, to be encouraging people to lie to the Home Office. And I very much hope, by the way, that people who have been proved to do that, I encourage the BBC to provide their information to the police and to the Home Office, should be arrested and charged with fraud, because that's what they've done. I also think that anyone who's been advised by these immigration advisors and been given asylum, the Home Office should relook at those particular cases to find out whether or not the justification given was genuine or not. But the second thing is this, Mark. There are some people who arrive who are gay and who are in fear of their lives. If you're gay in South African countries, you face a death penalty. So you can understand why people want to escape from that and go somewhere else. So it's very difficult. So those people who are immigration advisors who are defrauding the system by making people make false claims are also undermining the cases of those who are genuine and do fear for their lives.
Of course they are. And that's the problem with the Channel migrants, most of whom are coming from France, which is a safe country, Norman, and those people are also doing a disservice to genuine refugees, which is why I'd recommend a far harder line, which is that if you enter the country via a small boat, you will never receive asylum in this country and you will be locked up the moment you arrive and you will await deportation. What's not to like?
Well, as I say, the method legally, the method of arrival is not a factor in whether or not someone's a genuine asylum.
Which is, of course, Norman, why we need to tear up all of the agreements that we've made, including the ECHR and potentially the Human Rights Act and the Refugee Convention.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but what I do think is that if you did what I've suggested, which is fast processing, limiting appeals, and a better arrangement, frankly, with other democracies where these people come from, there is a package of measures you can take which will reduce the pressure immensely, and that would, I think, be a better way forward.
Could we start by not allowing asylum to anyone that's come from France, given it's a safe country?
Well, of course, if you look back to pre-Brexit days in the European Union, we had the Dublin Agreement. It wasn't very well enforced, I might say, but the Dublin Agreement was there. And if someone had been refused asylum in France, then they couldn't claim asylum again in the UK. Now they can. They can be refused asylum in France and legitimately go through the whole process again in the UK.
What do you make of these houses of multiple occupancy? I think it could be quite devastating for local communities. Again, not to demonise immigrants, Norman, but I'm just thinking of human nature. If you've got 6, 7, 8, 9 lads who are bored with no job, sitting around in a house of multiple occupancy all day, I'm not sure that they would be the ideal neighbours.
No, they wouldn't be. And the other thing I've said is that, and this was a minority view in the Home Office when I was there, but if people are being held or in this country for a long time awaiting processing, then, in a way, there's an argument for making them work, because that keeps them out of mischief and it makes sure they contribute to the taxpayer while they're here. Now, I know some people don't like that because they think it makes them part of society. But
and it's an incentive. It's an incentive, isn't it?
It could be seen that way, but I think on balance, there's an argument for doing that. The other thing I would say about HMOs and hotels, and I'm interested in one of your listeners or viewers there who was talking about their particular circumstance, which is very unfortunate, as you correctly identified. The fact is that some people who run hotels and HMOs are a bit scandalous. Let's not forget that a lot of asylum seekers who are in hotels have actually contracted scabies because the quality of some of these places is quite dreadful.
Well, there you go, Norman. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for your insight and thoughts on this complex issue. Norman Baker is a former Home Office minister. Tom Jones is the deputy online editor at The Critic. Hello, Tom.
Hi, how are we doing?
Very well. So Norman Baker's solution is to incarcerate illegal immigrants and process their claims within a month. What's your reaction?
Well, frankly, I think quicker processing would actually really help in this. But fundamentally, the problem is the sheer amount of people that are coming. Basically, processing is not going to address the pull factors that are bringing people here.
And also, if you accelerate the process by which claims are looked at least half of these people will stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is the ultimate reward, isn't it?
Yeah, the other issue there is, of course, that we do have asylum acceptance rates that are simply too high. I remember, I think when the Albanians were coming over, we were granting something like 83% of asylum requests from Albania, and the next highest nation was France, and that was granting about 11%.
Yes, and Germany stopped offering asylum to Albanians 15 years ago, and the Swedes stopped it 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So speeding up processing would help, but it's only a very small part of a radical overhaul that the system needs, frankly.
The elephant in the room is supply, isn't it? It's not about where these people go. It's the fact that the boats keep coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can see that with the decision to move migrants from hotels to HMOs. Basically, that's just a cost issue. And also that hotels have now become centres of protest because there's a large number of migrants in a single place that's easily identifiable. But it's just costing so much that the government is having to close the hotels down.
It's mind-boggling that people who have entered the country illegally, about whose background we know nothing, have freedom. I can't process this with my head, and I've been around the block a few times. I'm in the full throes of middle age. I cannot process, Tom, the fact that you enter the country illegally, you get a mobile phone, dentist appointments, GP appointments, money, 3 meals a day, and your freedom. I don't get it.
I think it's more than freedom. These people get rights. They get privileges, and I think,
translators, lawyers,
one of the
day trips to bloody Thorpe Park,
discounted entry to most places. I think one of the really egregious things that people will find with this transition from hotels to houses of multiple occupancy will be that, people who have strived all of their lives to buy a house, will have kids at home who are being priced out of the housing market, will suddenly find a little further down the street in an almost identical home 8 or 9 new arrivals who have paid nothing into the system, who frankly, probably, even if we let them work, would not ever pay into the system. If their asylum was granted, would never pay into the system. They will just be given a home. And I think that is going to be a real problem for the social contract in this country.
Most definitely. Tom, what a treat to have you on the show. We'll speak soon. Tom Jones is the deputy online editor at The Critic, which I've got to say is a cracking read. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Your calls next, including we're going to connect with a viewer who lives opposite an HMO. Don't go anywhere.
It's pretty clear that the ceasefire, such as it exists, is not going to hold for very long. But, the thing that worries me, Julia, which you guys have been touching on already, is just the amount of misinformation we are being subjected to on an hourly basis every single day. I mean, the idea that Israel is just, like a lunatic bombing Lebanon for fun is complete claptrap. Hezbollah has fired tens of thousands of missiles at Israel over the past 2.5 years.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
1:49, you are listening to Talk. Mark Dolan in for Ian Collins for the next 2 weeks. Lovely to have your company. Thank you for the calls, the texts. We're going to stay on top of your feedback. We've got a simple question today. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Claire is in Milton Keynes. Hello, Claire.
Hello.
Afternoon.
Hello.
How are things in MK, one of my favourite places?
Well, we've just recently moved into a group. Well, it's a bungalow, a group of bungalows for pensioners. And directly opposite us, there's a HMO, and there's between 6 and 8 young Asian men living there. They don't cause us any problems. They all work, well, 2 or 3 of them work for a local delivery company. But what concerns me is the lady next door. She's quite a young woman. She's got 2 young daughters, around about 7, 8 years old. And she waits, if they're out, these men are standing out the front of the house. She waits until they've gone in before she'll park up. She'll wait at the top of the road, and then she'll come down and her girls go straight in the house. But she's covered her whole back garden with extensions and gazebos. And I assume that's so they can't see into her garden.
She sounds like a prisoner in her own home because of the people that have moved in.
Yes, yes. And I think the other house, the other side, I think that's a HMO as well, although I can't confirm that. But there are, and they do congregate out the front of the house smoking, and they all seem to drive BMWs.
I'd love to know where they got the disposable income for a Beamer, because I can't afford a Beamer. Can you, Claire?
No, and these are quite new ones as well.
Yeah, what a delightful, what a rich tapestry this is that we're building. I mean, Claire, the bottom line is also that those men, 6 to 8 people living opposite you, if they're illegal immigrants and they're having asylum cases processed or whatever, we don't know their background. We don't know if they have a criminal record or not. And if you're a parent, well, that's going to be on your mind when you're thinking about your kids.
Exactly.
I mean, those little girls, wouldn't it be nice if they could ride a bicycle on the street? And wouldn't it be nice if the school was nearby, that they could, in a pair, walk to school together? That's not going to happen, is it?
Yes. No, and I've got 4 beautiful grandchildren under 13, and I won't let them out the front of the house now. So they stay in the house or they go in the back garden.
And this is Milton Keynes, which is a great English new city. Was it constructed in the 60s, was it? 50s, 60s, MK?
Well, the house we're in was 74.
And it was, there was so much hope with the creation of Milton Keynes, this modern city with great amenities, a happy community. How times have changed.
Yes, it's very worrying, very scary, especially for young parents with young girls and young daughters.
It's a shocker, isn't it? I mean, what would you do? Because my feeling, Claire, is that it's about the supply. The boats keep coming.
Yeah, because they keep giving them everything for free.
Yeah.
And it's just absolute madness. My granddaughter, the 13-year-old, she's a very savvy young lady, but we won't allow her to walk home from school or walk to school. She has to be taken by car every morning. We have to. My daughter takes her, or we take her.
Well, I think what the woke crowd, the sort of be kind progressives that are in our politics, some of them are TV presenters, some of them used to present Match of the Day. They'll have you believe, Claire, that all human beings are the same, everyone's decent. But the bottom line is that men from overseas are by definition different to men born in this country, with very often different attitudes towards women.
Yes, and we saw a man in Morrison. He was obviously an immigrant, but he directed his wife and he said to her, "You stay there," and she had to stand still. And it was just awful. You don't treat women like that.
It's not British, is it? It's not the British way.
No. And my dad, he was involved in the war. He was involved in the keel in the submarine silos, mopping up, he called it. And my husband's dad, he was involved in the D-Day landings.
My goodness.
And the amount of men, young men and women that died so that we could be free and have free speech. It just makes me sick to my stomach.
And they also died to defend the territorial boundaries of this country.
Yes.
And we don't do that anymore, do we? We don't defend the territorial boundaries of this country. 70k a year is, well, that's an open border, isn't it?
Yeah. It's absolute madness.
Well, Claire, can I thank you for your courage in calling? I know it wasn't an easy call for you to make, my darling. Are you all right?
I'm okay. I'm not as eloquent as Georgina or Matt in Cheshire, and I don't ring in that often. But yeah, I'm okay.
Listen, I'm giving you a big virtual hug. It's important that you've called. I'm grateful that you have, because we need to get these stories out there, and the establishment need to wake up. I think big change is coming, but I do worry about what kind of state we're going to be in by the time of the next election. More power to you, Claire, to your grandkids, to your family, and I'm just sending you thoughts about this, because your story is not an exclusive one. Claire in Milton Keynes there, it's a tough conversation and my heart goes out to her, but this is not an isolated case. This is going on around the country, and a house of multiple occupancy is coming to a neighbourhood near you. John is in Wokingham. Hello, John.
Hi, Mark.
John, thank you very much for calling the show. What do you think? Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Does that fix it then?
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. We know nothing about these people. They're not documented. They throw their passports into the channel, and it's absolutely ridiculous. It's better to keep them contained in hospitals or army barracks, that sort of thing, till they're processed. But it's all about votes, isn't it? Starmer's never going to smash the gangs. He's never going to start the votes because he's petrified of the ECHR. So it's never going to happen. But it's the worst thing to do, to put them out, put 6 or 7 in a house next to you, because you don't know who they are, what they're doing. They're not documented. They disappear into the economy, work in the black economy. No, it's mental.
Doubtless making a mess in many of those houses, eating fast food paid for by viewers and listeners to this show, smoking weed in the garden, standing in front of the property, staring at the locals.
Yeah, absolutely. And poor people on the waiting list for houses, they can't get on. Cause
young couples.
Yep, absolutely. You know, they've been waiting. Some people might be waiting 5 or 6 years, and they get served Section 21. They've moved to moved out. No, it's never going to happen. We've got servicemen on the streets. While these people come over, they're getting a 4-star hotel straight away.
John, can the country be saved? John, can the country be saved? Can the boats be stopped?
I think we've gone over the point. In all fairness, I think we've tipped it over too far. I think Starmer's working to get us back into Europe.
Yeah.
So the economy's broken. Rachel Thieves has got no idea what she's doing because her abacus is broken. I think Starmer's goal is to get us back into Europe. Simple as that.
Well, he will doubtless use an economic crisis as a pretext to get us back in, right?
Correct.
And of course, you know what that means, John? That means more immigration.
Yeah, I know. It's even worse. It's like in Spain. So what's he going to give away next? He's going to give away Gibraltar. And they'll come over from Spain and Morocco and Algeria.
And, John, don't forget about the Falklands, because if I was Javier Milei, I'd get my navy ready.
I know. What navy? We don't have a navy.
Well, exactly.
HMOs dragging your feet never got to Cyprus, did he? Come on.
No. I mean, the Iron Lady wasn't perfect, was she? But she knew how to defend the boundaries of this country and to keep British territory.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that. She was absolutely brilliant. I'd love her back today now, in all fairness, and Churchill.
Well, she had to go to bed every night with a worry in her mind, which is that the war could be lost. The Falklands War was not an easy one.
No, it wasn't. But she rallied the troops in 3 days.
Amazing.
We're off down to Ascension Island and further on than that. Yeah, we've got nothing to fight with. We've got no navy, we've got no army. You can put all our servicemen in Wembley Stadium. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's just wild, isn't it? John, thank you for your call. You spoke very well, John, and do call me again soon. An important conversation and one a set of views there shared by, I would say, millions, to be quite honest with you. How about this from James in Plymouth? Mark, I think the time is right to call it what it is. It's not asylum seekers. It's not legal or illegal immigration. It is an invasion, plain and simple. And anyone not here legally, regardless of their status, should be held as a prisoner of war, lock and key under military control, job done. Yeah, it mystifies me. I still cannot process that people that enter the country illegally have freedom. It just, when you consider that when you go through the airport, with your boarding pass and your passport and the customs officials. It makes no sense. Lots more to come. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good afternoon. Mark Dolan here on Talk, in for the brilliant Ian Collins for the next 2 weeks, plus Weekend Breakfast as well. And breaking this afternoon, a BBC investigation reveals that cynical human rights lawyers are teaching illegal immigrants to pretend to be gay in order to remain in the country. Meanwhile, the government have moved 10,000 migrants out of hotels into houses of multiple occupancy. But my question to you this afternoon is a simple one. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? My phone number is 03444991000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note and let's talk. Well, if an energy crisis and an absolute nightmare in regards to illegal immigration wasn't enough for this government, we've got economic problems too. Britain faces the biggest economic shock in the G7 this year, according to the International Monetary Fund. Just how much trouble are we in? I'm delighted to welcome Maxwell Marlowe from the Adam Smith Institute. Hey, Maxwell.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm very well. Well, all the metrics are wrong, aren't they? Growth is non-existent, inflation is sticky and rising upwards, and we're seeing the unwelcome return of unemployment.
Absolutely. I mean, so the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, put out their spring update today, and it's really bad news. So we're looking at 0.8% growth this year, which is basically non-existent, right? And we've also got, we've also got the joint highest inflation in the G7. So that means that we have as much inflation as Italy will, who also have their own energy problems because they don't have any North Sea or coal or whatever else. So it's really, really difficult at the moment. And this is entirely because of successive governments' policies, because they want high tax, high spend, high regulation, low entrepreneurialism, low innovation. So the only people who are actually making any money for the UK at the moment are basically on the government's bad books. And it's really sad to see.
The contract between citizen and state and what could be expected of the state needs to be torn up and started anew, doesn't it?
I think so. Look, there are loads of different areas of public policy that we look at the Adam Smith Institute, and we look, towards welfare. We see huge problems in universal credit. We see huge problems with the triple lock and the state pension. We turn around and we look at economic growth. We see masses upon masses upon masses of red tape, whether that's with the new Employment Rights Act, whether that's with minimum wage, or we look at housing, for example, where I was just looking at some of the analysis earlier this morning in a newspaper, and it turns out that boroughs like Bexley and Kensington Chelsea didn't start building a single home, not a single home in those two boroughs for the entirety of last year. There is no, water everywhere, not a drop to drink when it comes to economic growth. There are great opportunities for Brits out there, but the government's just not going to let them take it.
Well, you're absolutely right to talk about policies of not just this government, but previous administrations. This decline has been decades in the making, hasn't it, Maxwell?
It really has. It's really sad to see. We had really good economic growth until I think about 2006, and then our productivity growth, dropped off, and it hasn't really recovered at the pace that we want it to. And there are lots of reasons for that. I have my own pet theory around mortgages. People will look at energy, for example, and us closing down the North Sea and blowing up all of our manufacturing facilities under the last few governments. But we could really look anywhere about the size of the state and the size of our regulatory and tax burden. And things aren't going to get any better. And we really do need fresh thinking in the Treasury, in all of the government departments, in order to unlock the amazing talents and capabilities of Britain. And let's not forget, we invented the steam engine. We invented the modern world 3 times over the past 200 years. And we've all let it slide away. It's so sad to see.
Most definitely. Well, can I just depress you and offer you some growth figures under Mrs. Thatcher, the Iron Lady?
No, please do. Yeah,
here we go.
I always like to hear them. Go on.
83, we had 4%. 85, 4%. 87, 5%. 88, 5%. It was just growth. Mrs. Thatcher liberated the working class with right to buy. And, of course, we had a proliferation of small businesses. We need to go back to those policies, don't we?
A nation of shopkeepers, I think, is what Napoleon called us, and he was right to do so.
Also, what would you do for 5% growth? I can't believe these figures. I can't believe my eyes.
I'd cut off my legs, Mark, and I wouldn't even claim universal credit for doing so.
What kind of a country would we be if we sustained 5% growth for a decade?
Where would we be?
What would happen?
I'm just trying to think about it. I think we would dwarf a lot of what Europe is wanting to do. We'd be probably richer than Switzerland per capita. So Rolexes all around, ladies and gentlemen. It'd be fantastic. Your pensions would be fine. Your taxes would come down. You could look forward to the rest of your life without having to worry about, the tax man coming to take away your hard-earned work. There's so much possibility. And this is what always annoys me when I go and speak to, some politician, or I speak to some crowds about the beauties of economic growth, and they just go, "You're just an economist. You don't believe in the values and whatever else." I believe in prosperity. I know your listeners and viewers believe in prosperity for Britain, and that's what economic growth can do. And that's what happens if you cut taxes, liberate the market, and let entrepreneurs get on and do what they're built to do, which is make money, make growth, and pay people good wages.
Most definitely. And I've got no problem. If you're on the left politically, I'm more than happy for you to use economic growth to support the poorest in our society. Yeah. In a way, I couldn't care less what you do with the money. I just want a growing economy, and then we can have a debate about, is it investment, is it infrastructure, or is it public services? What we've got at the moment with the government is a lot of spending and no national income, and that doesn't end well, does it?
It doesn't. So the Institute for Public Policy Research, which is a left-wing think tank, let's keep that in mind, and they launched a report a couple of days ago with the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, looking at NHS spending. And they had a really good observation, which is that all of the money that we put into the NHS, it's the second largest government department outside of welfare, Mark. It's absolutely ginormous. It's hundreds of billions of pounds a year. The problem is that it's all being spent on salaries and hiring people. Yeah. It's not being spent on hospitals. It's not being spent on CT scanners, on new drugs, et cetera, et cetera. It's about infrastructure and getting that investment so that people can go out and do their job. And so for example, I live in West London, for example. I'm very lucky to do so. Down my road, the Royal Marsden Hospital wants to build a brand new cancer treatment centre for £1 billion. And yet we have local people in the area writing into their local MP, who's Ben Coleman, who's a Labour Party figure, urging him to oppose the planning of building £1 billion world-leading cancer treatment centre. I mean, what is going on with some of the British people at the moment who want to support anti-growth, anti-treatment, and really making our lives much more miserable? It's this sort of perfidious sickness which has descended on our minds that I sort of blame COVID for, to be honest, Mark. But, who knows where this comes from?
Most definitely. Now, the Chancellor is blaming international global headwinds, but this is a Chancellor that seems to blame everyone except herself, Maxwell. She's blaming the war in Iran for our current problems. She previously blamed the Trump tariffs. She's decided after a few years in number 11 that suddenly it's the fault of Brexit. What's next? The Battle of Hastings? The French Revolution?
I think it's a good point. It's not just her, though, and I noticed this when I was looking at the last government as well. They always claim credit for things that, which go their way, and they blame everyone else when things don't go their way. So inflation's a great one, for example. So last few quarters, inflation's come down. The Chancellor stands up at the dispatch box in the House of Commons and goes, this is because of this government's plan for growth, this government's plan for stability, this government's plan on cracking down cost of living. And then as soon as something else happens elsewhere, bang, it's Donald Trump's fault, it's the Ayatollah's fault, it's Vladimir Putin's fault. Look, let's not forget here, there are huge problems, caused by Trump's war in Iran, right? We are running out of jet fuel at the moment. The Chancellor, can't really be blamed for that. What she can be blamed for, and as with really anyone else working in the Treasury, is the huge amount of taxation that we've been piling in on ourselves. And just earlier today, Mark, and this may be breaking news for your show, the UK government sold its largest ever pile of debt for it borrowed about £15 billion at 4.5% over the next few years in order to pay for these kind of outrageous things like public sector pensions, for huge increases in civil service wages, for expanding the size of the civil service so they can regulate and tax us even more. It happens time and time again, and they can't get out of that mindset.
Briefly, Maxwell, and thank you for that shocking development that the government have borrowed £15 billion at a rate of 4.5%, which is eye-wateringly high. You and I will be paying the interest on that. Just briefly, Maxwell, Nigel Farage is telling his troops to get ready for a snap general election next year. He thinks that 2027 could happen because of some kind of economic event. Do you think that between now and the election, Britain could have a Greece moment?
That's a very good question, Mark, and do excuse me if I take a moment to ponder it. But
well, no, you don't have to. I mean, that's the thing. It's complex issues, isn't it?
It's very complex.
A lot of it is tea leaves. But I'm just looking at the metrics. I'm looking at the sticky inflation. I'm looking at the low growth. Looking at cost of the servicing our debt. I just worry that the well may run dry.
It could do. What I think may happen, and this is just my opinion, I think the IMF may have to come in and go, right, all of these massive welfare programs that we have ongoing, that includes the state pension and includes universal credit, etc., will have to be cut to the bone. Likewise for health spending as well, that may have to be cut down. Even defence may have to be cut down as well. And we can see how bare bones that is at the moment. So that could happen in the next few years. The one saving grace Britain has, though, is that it's got a very large kind of capital stock, which is, all of that oil we do have in the North Sea. If Ed Miliband turns around and goes, actually, we could drill this, we could start to generate revenues from there. That would be good for us. Likewise, and I really don't want this to happen, we could print lots and lots of money, which is what we did during the pandemic, and it's why we have the inflation we have today. So there are actually lots of options. I don't think there will be a general election next year. I'm happy to be proved wrong on that, but it doesn't take away from the fact that our economic growth and our living standards are in dire straits at the moment.
Maxwell, lucky you living in West London. I'll let you run off to Gales for a £5 latte. Because you're a man.
Thank you. I think it's at least £5. I spent £3 on a cheese straw the other day, Mark. I don't know what's wrong with me.
No, listen, you're worth it. You're worth every penny. I will say I had a black coffee at Pret the other day. It was £1. I was very impressed. Maxwell,
filter, yeah.
We'll catch up soon, and thank you for your intel on this. It all matters to my viewers and listeners, because the bottom line is that there is a cost of living crisis, and I would argue, thanks to the policies of this government, it's only getting worse. We've got some breaking news. 2 suspects who overnight threw bottles thought to contain petrol in an attempted arson at a synagogue in Finchley, North London, are being sought by detectives, according to the Met Police, adding the attack is being treated as an anti-Semitic hate crime. We'll get more on that as it comes in. I want to ask you a simple question this afternoon. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Brian is in Swindon. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
Thank you for your call. The government think they fixed it. The hotels are not going to be accommodating migrants. Is that job done?
No, of course it isn't. The bottom line is, how long will it be before Starmer says, I've cured the hotel bill by shutting them all down?
Yeah.
He hasn't cured the immigration problem because he's just moved the goalpost.
I mean, I'm worried, Brian, because I'm starting to think, be careful what you wish for. I think that homes of multiple occupancy might be worse than migrant hotels.
I totally agree, because we don't know who's going in them. And if Starmer gets his own way and rejoins the EU, we'll have to go in the EU, accept the EU's immigration policies.
Well, you're right about that. And Brian, if we re-enter the EU, we won't get the deal that we previously had. We'll have to have the euro, and we'll have to have free movement.
Yeah, the Bank of England will become another building, an empty building in...
redundant.
In London. Yeah.
Do you think the Bank of England could become the biggest home of multiple occupancy?
No. Stop it, damn it. Stop it.
Brian, I've got a simple question for you. Do you think we will ever stop the boats?
Yes, if France sorts themselves out, not just watching them as they pile through the water and get on them.
Yeah.
And, Belgium stopped the boats, didn't they?
They did. Australia stopped the boats, Operation Sovereign Borders. It's been done.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we have a Europhile Prime Minister called Keir Starmer, who hasn't got the balls to stop the boats.
That appears to be the case, and it's a deep worry, isn't it? Brian, brilliant call. Let's speak again soon. I really appreciate your thoughts on that. Brian in Swindon, who thinks that what Starmer's going to do is take us closer to the EU, which will add to our challenges around controlling immigration. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community, is it the answer? What do you think? Have they fixed it? What is your solution? Will we ever stop the boats? This is Talk.
It's pretty clear that the ceasefire, such as it exists, is not going to hold for very long. But, the thing that worries me, Julia, which you guys have been touching on already, is just the amount of misinformation we are being subjected to on an hourly basis every single day. I mean, the idea that Israel is just, like a lunatic bombing Lebanon for fun is complete claptrap. Hezbollah has fired tens of thousands of missiles at Israel over the past 2.5 years.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Dan in Halifax has messaged the show and says, "Hi Mark, here in Halifax, I know a woman who's being evicted under the pretext of upgrading the property. Unfortunately, in reality, it's to become a house of multiple occupancy. The government are closing the migrant hotels, or at least getting the migrants out of the hotels into a neighbourhood near you." Is that the answer? Matthew is in Warrington. Hi, Matthew.
Hiya, Mark. How are you doing, Paul?
Very well. Thanks for your call. How are things in Warrington this afternoon?
HMOs on every street that I deliver to, mate. I'm a delivery driver. I do all down with Eau Claire. I've got one across the road from me where I live. A beautiful terraced house, ripped to the bare bones, 8 flats in it, 8 bed sits in there, £600 to £750 a month they're paying on it. We don't know who's going in there. The lady next door is a good church-going Catholic woman. She's absolutely petrified pensioner. The house price, she can't sell a house. It was cowboy builders who built it. They made a right pig's ear of it. There's these couple investors, they're going around all these houses that are for sale, offering them cash £20,000 cheaper than what the going rate is, no chain, and people are just selling them. And the housing market in Warrington, there's hardly any for sale signs up because normal people can't buy them. It's just people investing. And the guy across the road from me, Mark, he's got a 6-year contract, 6 years, 8 bedrooms, £700 per room for 6 years. That is scandalous.
Matthew, did anyone vote for this?
No, we didn't. We didn't know about this. And, it's all right moving out the hotels, but they're in our community now. And I'm not saying they're all bad people.
Of course not.
I'm not saying that at all. Some people are generally coming here, they want to work, they want a new life. But the way the society's got, you're not going to have a new life. Our children are not going to have a new life because you can't get on the housing market, you can't get a job. Job prices are kept low due to cheap labour. The people, they don't want to learn our way of life. They don't want to speak English. They just want the benefits. They want to live off it because why wouldn't you?
And if you...
Why wouldn't you?
Correct. If you live in a neighbourhood that has several houses of multiple occupancy, are you going to let your small kids ride their bicycle and, walk to school on their own? Are you going to do any of those things?
Mark, I've got a beautiful 16-year-old daughter. She's at college. She's got a little job at Costa. She walks to work. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and I'm absolutely petrified. I've put CCTV up around my house. I've increased my security. I won't let them walk. You can't go through the local park because there's immigrants on the park. You see it all the time on Facebook, parents saying, my daughter's just been approached by a foreign man. These people, and it's not racist. Culturally, women are second nature.
Correct.
They're down the food chain. Women and children. The lads who I served with in Afghan. There's a story for you. They were in Afghanistan. They're out in Helmand province. The Afghan police used to come in, and they'd have boys dressed in police uniform because that's what they did. It's in the culture. The perverts, child sex with young boys and girls. It's been in with them for some time. But medieval times, they don't care. They don't care about women. They make women. There's a lady in the gym works. She works in a retail shop, and she said there's ladies come in and they have to ring home to their husbands to ask them to put more money in their accounts because they won't allow them to spend any money or buy what they want. You have to ring them up and physically ask them, say, please, may I have some money to buy some I don't know, pants, and then the husband dictates what they do.
Yes, and
if I did that, I would be classed as a sexist, male ignorant, wife beating, horrible man. I go to prison, but culturally, it's the norm. It's what they do. They don't care. They don't want to change their ways. They don't come here. Oh, I don't like our way. They come here and they want to bring their bad medieval habits with them.
Well, Matthew, you probably, if you told your wife that she could have money or not have money, you could get done for domestic abuse by social services. You could have your collar felt. Meanwhile, I was on my way in yesterday, and there was a guy in. It was actually a bit sunny yesterday, and he's in t-shirt and shorts with his wife, who was in full burqa. Right, the only bit of her anatomy I could see were her eyes, and I thought to myself, is this progress? And why are the progressive left so deafening in their silence about what is blatant sexism?
It's awful. You've got Zach Balansky there going for the Muslim vote. Does he not realise that if they let these extremist Muslims come in, all women will be walking around with headscarves and burqas on. You know, your children will be getting arranged weddings to the cousins. There'll be female music, whatever they do down below. All these. When you mention these 20, 30 years ago, everyone was discussing that. Oh, it's just the culture. Don't worry about it. No, it's not right. If you want, that's what you want to do. Keep that in Afghanistan. Keep that in Africa. We don't bring it here. We're civilized people. Women, in the last 20 years, women have been pushed backwards by the society.
And that's, Matthew, that's before you get to the trans madness where women don't even have their own bathroom. I mean, we are waging war on women. Now, Matthew, let me throw in, and I think you'll agree with this, that clearly not all immigrants, legal and illegal, have an archaic attitude to women. But the bottom line is some do, and any number that do is too many.
Exactly. I told you the other day that I work with the cadets. And I have to do a CRB check just to work with children. And now I'm going to try and go back into uniform. I've got a more in-depth CRB, so they're looking at me, my mum's ex-husbands and my dad's ex-partners in 30, 40 years ago, so I can be a full instructor. We've got thousands of people just coming over on boats. We don't know what they've done. They might be running away because of a perverted gang. We don't know anything about them. We don't know if they're not just the sexual wise. They might be hardened criminals. They might be torturing people. They might be, gang leaders. We don't know, and we're just letting them in, putting them in our streets, and letting them mix with our society. And then the government will get worried when there's an uprising. If you think,
and then you'll be far right. You'll be far right, Matthew.
Oh yeah. And then when something happens in the street, instead of it being outside a hotel, you can have gangs of local people going to the HMO and kicking off, and then it's far right. And I'm not being.
And then the far left will come in and they'll do a counter protest. Then there'll be trouble.
And then the police will be arresting everyone because you're far right, but they won't arrest the ones who are saying, "Oh, it's all right, give them a hug."
I know.
We've got no money. We've got no infrastructure. Our schools can't cope. Our hospitals can't cope. Our society can't cope. We've got no money.
And don't forget that the offspring of these folk require translators in the class.
Exactly.
There are behavioural issues. I mean, it goes on, doesn't it? Matthew, do you think we will ever stop the boats?
I really hope, as long as reform and that can keep it together and don't let Restore get too many votes. We can stop it. We've got to stop it. We can't continue just having open borders. We've got to start looking after our country and get it back. And the only person who can do that is Farage and Reform. And people have got to get the heads out of the buckets of sand and realise we need to vote either when the next local election's in, start getting the message across. Because otherwise we're in a whole lot of pain. We can't do another 5-10 years of this.
Matthew, you speak so well. You're a legend. Sorry, Matthew, you are. And your family are lucky to have you. Keep fighting the fight, and we'll do it here on Talk as well. Let's speak again soon, Matthew. Hard-working delivery driver who has seen the consequences of HMOs as he goes about his daily business. Andrew is in Hertfordshire. Hello, Andrew.
Hi there. Cracking call from Matthew. The thing that he's trying to articulate there, it's within domestic violence coercive behaviour. And as an advanced, that's what it is. And you can be charged with that. And that's what he explained to us. You're asking the wrong question this afternoon about houses of multiple occupancy.
Yeah.
That decision has been made. What you want to ask is what is the Home Office's risk assessment of the likely outcome? So when you take the Notting Hill Carnival, it is accepted that there will be 10 to 20 stabbings. It's accepted there'll be 2 murders because potentially that could happen any day in that area in London. So they will say for every 20 houses of multiple occupancy, the public will stand 20 robberies, 6 car thefts, and then 2 to 3 rapes and potentially a murder. That's the document we want to see because they know the risk.
And it won't make for good reading, will it, Andrew?
No,
I mean, plot spoiler, the risk assessment will be a horror show.
No, because the greatest disinfectant is sunlight.
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? Because the authorities don't like to share the ethnicity of criminals or any of the background of people that commit crimes in this country. And that would be because perhaps what we would discover doesn't fit the narrative that diversity is our strength.
Yeah, but remember, we're going into an election. He wants to lead with this. Oh, look what I've done about immigration. Aren't I good? That's what he wants to lead with. So that's the problem. But you know where we should really be worrying? That Matthew walking his daughters to and from school. There's not one Matthew in this country. There's probably about 15 to 20 million parents and grandparents whose lives are disrupted because they don't want their wives, daughters or young children to be raped by someone illegally in this country who has a propensity to do that.
Andrew, is there a counterbalance? Is there a danger of demonising people who are fleeing persecution and peril?
No, there's not, because we've always looked after those people. What we've got here is, quite frankly, an invasion of men who don't share our values, who are coming here for the wrong reasons.
From a safe country in France?
Who add no value. They add no value.
Andrew, you've added value. I really appreciate the call. We'll speak soon. And Andrew would like a risk assessment from the Home Office about these homes of multiple occupancy. Well, I can tell you that I lived next door to a home of multiple occupancy in Holloway, North London, about 17, 18 years ago. And there was a house fire after about 6 months because there were so many people accommodated into a small terraced house. Now, I don't know if they were illegals or what their immigration status was, but it was a home of multiple occupancy, and I can assure you it was hazardous, it was dirty, it was messy, it was noisy, and it was not fun. Folks, is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Next up, an historic university accused of anti-white discrimination over a controversial new scheme to lower entry requirements for British Asian candidates. We've got the inside story. That's next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Lovely to have your company, Mark Dolan, in for Ian Collins for the next 2 weeks. What about this story? One of England's oldest universities has been accused of discriminating against white students under a controversial new scheme. The University of Durham is lowering entry requirements for British Asians in popular subjects, including psychology, law and politics. It's promising a guaranteed alternative offer, typically 2 grades lower, to state school pupils of Asian heritage and descent. Let's get reaction from a really, really knowledgeable man in the space of education, the chairman of the Campaign for Real Education, and I'm pretty sure a former head teacher as well, Chris McGovern. Hello, Chris.
Hi there.
You've been a school head teacher on more than one occasion, haven't you?
Indeed.
So what do you make of this? I mean, do we need positive discrimination in order to help underrepresented groups in higher education?
It's an incredible situation, Mark, because here we have the white population is performing less well than the Asian population in Britain, and less well than the black population, white working class boys and girls in particular. Now here we have a famous university, and it's not alone in this. They're going to favour the people, the children who are already more successful. So what they're doing, what Durham are doing, is creating a sort of a form of educational caste system where the white children are now the untouchables. And you've got to support the people at the top of the caste system. It's illegal in India, by the way, though it still happens in India, that sort of caste system. We have an educational caste system developing, and it's working against the interests of white people, particularly white working class, and it's very divisive, and who knows where this is going to lead the country. We're discriminating against the majority population.
What does this tell us about the culture of higher education in the United Kingdom?
Well, the emphasis is on really supporting what they consider to be ethnic minorities, and they are ethnic minorities in terms of numbers, but not in terms of university places. Over half of the students at our universities are of Asiatic background, and only under a third, actually, under 30% are actually white. And amongst those white youngsters, it's a small number who are actually white working class. So what it tells us about the universities is they are, oddly enough, Mark, they're well-intentioned. They think this is helping. It's a very woke view of the world. The path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
They're not wicked people at Durham. They think they're doing well by supporting the Asiatic background children, young people. In fact, what they're doing is dividing our society and damaging the interests of the majority population. It's going to make people furious.
They're signed up to ideas like white privilege, aren't they? Whereby you have an unfortunate advantage just by the colour of your skin, which is a hard sell given the number of white people who are sleeping rough in the streets, ex-service personnel who can't get on the housing ladder, and as you said, the disproportionately underrepresented nature of white pupils at top universities.
Yes,
it's the opposite of white privilege. It's white underprivilege, isn't it? If we're going to play that game.
In schools and in universities, there's a big move afoot to do what they call decolonize the curriculum. The universities and schools, for that matter, and the government, for that matter, they see history as the story of white people oppressing non-white people, and in a sense, they are, what can I say, self-flagellation. They feel they can make up for the sins of the past by making the universities favour non-whites, just as there's talk at the moment of paying reparations for slavery. Church of England are going to do it. So this is massively wrong-headed. And for people who are intelligent, these are highly intelligent, obviously people at universities, they're doing what they think is the right thing. Actually, it's going to have pretty serious consequences because it's going to alienate the majority of people in this country who are actually white. So look, I'm all in favour. I've been in India. I've worked in India. I've sat in Indians' classrooms. The Indians are fantastic. They do a wonderful job with their kids with very few resources. They're doing fantastically well. They're a massive success story. When I say a failure in the world's education system, you look at the white working class, both in Britain and also in the United States.
Whether it's the closure of grammar schools in favour of the comprehensive system or wokery in our universities, has left-wing progressivism always been a problem in education?
Well, I taught for 35 years, Mark, and what we've seen in that time is a gradual creeping forward of the left-wing agenda. The closing of grammar schools was, in my view, closing the door to many children from white working class to get a good academic education. What should have happened, of course, is that we should have had grammar schools preserved, but we should also have developed technical schools, vocational schools for children who are not necessarily academic, but whom we desperately need. We need plumbers, we need electricians, we need roofers, builders, bricklayers. We desperately need those. So we've gone in the wrong direction.
And the Germans are happy to have the equivalent of grammar schools and then other schools which are like a technical college. They're happy to have inequality in education, and I think the strength of their economy justifies it.
I think the Germans are a good example. Switzerland's another. They divide the children at 11, and they do it on the headmaster's recommendation. And also, if you go to the Asia Pacific, to South Korea, to China, to Vietnam, to Japan, Taiwan, they definitely have different pathways, academic and vocation. But what they also have is a mentality which says, look, it's not superior to go to an academic school. Vocational schools are going to get you a good job. And how many young people today would work much harder, be much more focused on education if they were doing vocational training at the upper end of their school career? But we have problems on the streets, partly because a lot of young people are disaffected. They need to be doing courses which will lead them to employment. And we desperately need skilled workers.
So what are the consequences in a societal sense of universities having policies like this? Do you worry about what higher education is going to do to future generations who will go on to be the leaders of this country?
Yeah, look, it's a gift for what we call the far right. I know this word is abused a lot.
Yeah.
If you want to bring Mussolini into power in England or in Great Britain, the United Kingdom, you carry on doing what you're doing. You alienate the majority and you get Mussolini. And we see that because we've seen a rise in the right across Europe. And it's partly because the white working class, the majority in most countries, are alienated. So they go for the extremes. They go for the white, and they go for the right wing. So these left-wingers who think they're promoting equality and inclusion actually are promoting Mussolini.
Yes, all you do, you get an overcorrection the other way. And yes. Chris, while I have you, what's your appraisal of this government's performance when it comes to secondary education at the moment? What's the mood music? Have they improved things since they got into power? How's it looking?
Well, it's lamentable. In other words, it's no change. The Conservative Party were in power for many years, and before that we had Labour, and it's lamentable because although the Conservative Party claimed they raised standards, they didn't raise standards. It's much more nuanced than that. To some extent, the Conservatives did a little bit better with teaching of reading. Labour are bringing in a new national curriculum shortly. It'll be very woke. It'll be very anti-white.
Yeah.
It'll be very decolonising. So it's not good. And what's happening elsewhere is that they're overtaking Britain. Vietnam is a good example. Comparatively poor country, streets ahead of us. And if you want to see our economy in 20 years' time, look at our education system today. It's falling behind, and it's not about money. There are countries around the world which spend much less than we do and achieve higher standards. I give the example of Vietnam. There are others.
Well, that's right. So I believe it costs in the region of £9,000 or £10,000 to educate a British child in a secondary school. I doubt that the Vietnamese have a budget of 10k per kid.
Nothing like that. A tiny fraction of that.
Could be 2k, right? Could be 20% of that figure.
That's something like that, maybe even less.
Wow.
But we also the other thing here, which is important to make this point, Mark, we talk a lot about the divisions in our education system between the haves and the have-not, the rich and the poor. The real division is between the average kids in our school, who in our best schools. There's Westminster School, for example, in London, not far from your studio, or St Paul's, or these great British schools. Their average performance in mathematics is below the average performance of the street cleaners in Shanghai. Now, they're not my figures, they're the OECD figures. They're the international number crunchers. Our best kids are not performing as well as the working class kids in those developing, those Asia Pacific countries. So we're 3 years behind. So when we think our private schools, for example, or our best state schools are doing well, no, they're not doing well. They're 3 years behind by the age of 15. It's lamentable. So what's the performance like? Poor, lamentable, needs to improve.
So there are state schools in the Far East which are outperforming Westminster and St Paul's, which are elite level private schools that charge 30 or 40 grand a year for their education. That's quite extraordinary. And briefly, Chris, the other issue is that, for example, in Vietnam, not only is the budget much lower for education, they don't have fancy overhead projectors and laptops, do they? They haven't got flat screen tellies, and the classrooms are very full. 30, 35 kids. Behaviour is not a problem, and that's why they're successful.
And they have 70 children, 70 in some of the classes.
70?
But they use teaching methods that we used to use in the 50s and 60s and before that, which we ditched as old-fashioned. So they use what we call whole class teaching with the teacher at the front of the class, not groups of kids sat around tables. So, look, there's no mystery to this. And the OECD, again, have made it clear. It's not about spending money, not even about class size, but quality teachers. Quality teachers will always produce good results. And they train their teachers well and they teach effectively. We should pay our teachers well in Britain, but we should make sure they're doing a good job and only pay the good ones well.
Chris, you get an A+.
Thank you.
We love having you on the show. Always an education, no pun intended. Chris, lovely to see you again. Enjoyed many conversations when I used to host the Drive Time show on this programme. Look forward to catching up soon. The remarkable Chris McGovern, chairman of the Campaign for Real Education, who has shocked both Finlay and myself, the producer of the show. We cannot believe that there are state schools in the Far East that have a budget of maybe £2,000 per pupil per year, with a class size of up to 70, who are outperforming Westminster and St Paul's, which are elite-level private schools in our capital city. It is wild. Extraordinary stuff. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Joan is in Sunderland in the North East. Hello, Joan.
Hello. What you said before in your report, you are spot on. Absolutely, I agree with every single thing you have said. But it's not just about HMOs. Serco has the ability to offer landlords money for guaranteed rent for 5 years and repairs. So people are being given Section 21 notices to be evicted, no fault of their own. They're being thrown out to put migrants in. I object to that for a start. Then you have all the other things. Repairs. You get landlords in this country who wouldn't spend £1 if they could spend 50 pence.
Correct.
I own my own home. Nobody does repairs but me. I'm the only one who has to pay for that. So you've got that. You also have some dwellings which will need furniture and white goods. Serco will be paying for those as well. In other words, you and I. Then you have the energy costs. You've got elderly people, not just elderly people, people with babies, young families, right across the board, struggling with energy bills. Some of these places, you see, the curtains are never opened, lights on day and night. They do not have to worry about bills. Once again, we pick up the bill for that. My niece lives next to a person who's been on Sunderland council housing list for 10 years to get a council house. She's still waiting. You break into the country yesterday, you get a house. And that is all wrong, absolutely wrong. But what I want to know is, like Starmer and his crew, how many illegal immigrants live round about Starmer's family home, Reeves, the Foreign Secretary, the whole of that crew?
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee each and every one of those will be a NIMBY, not in my backyard. But we have to suffer it. We are picking up the bill. Don't forget rents, repairs, everything else paid for 5 years. And I do not trust Serco, because when it's not their money, they don't care. It's ours. There'll be millions gone AWOL. There'll be millions being spent
profiteering,
inappropriately, and it's all wrong.
And that's before you get to GP appointments, dentistry, trips to Thorpe Park, pocket money, mobile phones. It's a national scandal, Joan.
It is. And we accepting this, something has got to be done. This just can't go on. And that's without the danger of open borders. We do not know who these people are. You see more and more sex crimes. I'm not saying that the indigenous people of this country do not have crimes like that.
Of course.
You cannot say everybody.
But you don't want to import people that do those things too, and you don't want to import people who are disproportionately overrepresented for these crimes.
No, but I was listening to something yesterday and it alarmed me, where somebody was saying that illegal immigrants who are suffering from HIV and AIDS not to be treated on the NHS. It's bad enough for a girl, a child or a young girl to be raped by anybody. But the thought of whether your life is impacted in a second way, apart from the trauma, whether you have got a disease, a life-threatening disease that will change the whole of your life.
Joan, briefly, do you think change is coming?
Oh, well, it might be coming, but there's this these elections that's coming, I'll be quite honest with you, are going to be the most poisonous, nastiest elections ever. And electoral fraud is going to be off the scale, especially with postal voting. It's just going to be the dirtiest. It's something that we have never experienced so far in our existence.
And you're going to have people like Carol Vorderman encouraging folk to vote tactically as well.
Yes. Well, you see that in Birmingham. We could have 67 independent MPs. If they get their way, I don't want to hear MPs in our parliament talking about Gaza, building airports in Kashmir, child marriage, first cousin this and this, that and the other, blasphemy through the back door. I don't want our parliament tainted. I want our parliament to operate as our parliament used to. We fought hard for that. We can't allow this. So I don't want 67 independent MPs from Birmingham whittering on about things for other countries. If they want to talk about things here and improve things here.
Joan, I wish we had you for longer. I could do an hour with you. You're so articulate and you're so clear-sighted, and all the examples you've given are very, very powerful. Let's speak again soon. Joan, stay positive, because I do think change is coming, and I agree with you about postal voting. I don't understand why, when people died to preserve our right to vote, you now have to be able to send it in by post. It makes no sense at all. Everyone should go to a polling station to cast their vote. It's utter madness. And also ID as well. Joan, thank you for that. Lots more to come. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? This is Talk.
It's pretty clear that the ceasefire, such as it exists, is not going to hold for very long. But, you know, the thing that worries me, Julia, which you guys have been touching on already, is just the amount of misinformation we are being subjected to on an hourly basis every single day. I mean, the idea that Israel is just, you know, like a lunatic bombing Lebanon for fun is complete claptrap. Hezbollah has fired tens of thousands of missiles at Israel over the past 2.5 years.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk, and is moving migrants out of hotels into the community? The answer is our question today. Cliff has called the show. Hello, Cliff.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you very much for your call. The government are quite happy that they're closing the migrant hotels, or at least evicting the immigrants. But actually, having folk in your local community might be even worse.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's like next door. The hotels are at least in the city centre. We're talking about, men of fighting age occupied in residential areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the problem you've got, in my opinion, is that this is just a sideshow. It's a deflection from the real problem, which is obviously stopping the boats. An example I gave when I called was I moved out of the UK to Slovakia, a European country, fully signed up to ECHR with all the so-called European policies that entails.
Yeah.
Now, when I came here, I had 15 days to register with the police. So I got all my paperwork that was required, and there was a lot of paperwork to be dealt with. And it wasn't like, oh, yeah, please take a seat, Mr. Jones, blah, blah, blah. It was a bit of a grilling, I've got to tell you. And eventually I got my ID card, but for the first 2 years I wasn't allowed to work while I lived here, and that was a temporary ID which said I'm travelling, non-resident. Then I was not allowed to have any resource to government funding, so I couldn't go and say, look, I'm a bit hard up this week, and I have 200 quid or whatever it is they give you. So for them to say they're signing up to all these regulations, you've got Hungary, who won't take migrants. Poland, a friend of mine lives in Poland, very similar situation to me. 2 years, couldn't work, no resource to public funds. So I just don't know what...
So therefore you can even be in the EU and still be strict on immigration?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, did you know that Hungary are proudly paying a fine of several million euros a day because of their refusal to accept migrants? And the outgoing president said, yeah, I'm very, very proud of the fact that we're paying fines to police our borders.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've built this fence, and Poland have got very similar issues with their migrant problems they get. They've basically got the army deployed on this fence, and they're in fights every day with these people. And it's just bedlam. And if we don't stop it, it won't be the UK anymore.
And you've left now. Does it sadden you to see what's happening to this country?
Well, absolutely. Two things sadden me at the moment. I'm a Spurs fan. I'm named Cliff Jones after the famous Spurs week.
I'm not sure we're staying up, Cliff.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
But that's a different thing. So that's something to be depressed about. But the most depressing thing is that I served my country in the military, and it's not the country anymore. When I go home, it's different. It's just so different.
And as I said to an earlier caller, no one voted for this.
Well, I wasn't there when this lot got in, so I didn't vote. I took my option not to vote. And at the time, to be honest, I don't know who was the best option. But certainly now we need someone who's going to come in and cut through some of this tape, and otherwise it's only downhill.
I mean, Britain needs to be saved, Cliff, and Europe needs to be saved. Donald Trump, he doesn't get everything right, does he? But when he said that if you don't stop immigration, you won't have a Europe anymore, he was spot on.
Well, yeah, he is, absolutely. Because at the moment now, the migrant population is outweighing. I'll tell you something quickly. When I came here, every person I met said, oh, England, why did you move from England? Why have you moved from England? If I speak to people now, they go, oh, yeah, England, you're better off here, aren't you?
I mean, it's gone the other way. And at a certain point, apparently, Cliff, in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be outpaced by Poland for economic growth. Cliff, more power to you. Thank you for your service to this country. And I'm really sorry that we've left you, but we've lost you. We're losing a lot of good people because so many folk have told me on this show that if they had the money, they'd be out of here. And Cliff has made his escape and he's in Slovakia, which is in the EU, but able to police its borders. I think a lot of this boils down to political will and a bit of courage. I think that's the big one. Yvonne in Solihull. Mark, come to Edgbaston in Birmingham, where I owned 7 student and young professionals' properties. My business suffered when the council and foreign landlords introduced these individuals in HMOs in all surrounding houses. Scumbag is the best description of these men. Properties unkempt, rags at windows, sitting on doorsteps day and night, torn, bagged rubbish permanently left out to blow around. Absolutely horrible stuff. Keep those calls coming. A big hour next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, a very good afternoon. Happy Wednesday, one and all. Mark Dolan in for the brilliant Ian Collins this and next week, plus Weekend Breakfast as always. And breaking this afternoon, a BBC investigation reveals that cynical human rights lawyers are teaching illegal immigrants to pretend to be gay in order to remain in the country. Meanwhile, the government have moved 10,000 migrants out of hotels into houses of multiple occupancy and also army barracks. But here's a question this afternoon. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community, is it the answer? Is that job done? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, Robert Jenrick has called for the parents of Axel Rudakubana to be deported. Is he right? Plus, Britain is going to suffer the greatest consequences from the Iran war in the G7. Can Rachel Reeves survive a fresh economic crisis? So you can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch the show because we are on TV now. Just head to YouTube, search Talking Up We Pop, and it is a TV product currently being directed by Jana. So take a look at the show if you want to see what's happening. Well, it's a big conversation today. Massive response to Dolan's dispatch. In my view, taking people out of hotels is one thing, but putting them into the community, arguably even worse. The elephant in the room is supply. When are we going to stop the boats? Because at the moment, it's just deck chairs on the Titanic. Here's a voice note from lovely Paula.
I just don't understand what the government don't get about this issue. It doesn't matter where these migrants are housed. Well, it does, I suppose. It does matter where they're housed. But it's the fact that they're here and they keep coming and that we're paying for them and that the country's broke. What do they propose to do about it? We cannot just keep paying for them ad infinitum. We can't just keep inviting people to come in and not do anything about it. We are broke. The country is broken and we are just letting people walk all over us. I'm terrified. And it's no wonder we can't turn the boats around in the Channel because we've seen with this whole issue with Trump, we don't have any boats.
You're so right about that, Paula. Terrified is the word that stuck out from your excellent voice note. If we look at illegal immigration, we've got several aspects to this. Economy, national security, society, all of which are being obliterated by this daily crime. I can't process it. I mean, if you could just go back in a time machine and ask Winston Churchill about it. I'll get to more of your voice notes in a moment. Well, the Prime Minister has been admonished in regard to his policy on military spending. UK military chiefs have been asked to find £3.5 billion in efficiencies and other savings this year, even as Sir Keir Starmer says he's readying his armed forces for war. But many are criticising this government for acting too slowly to rearm the nation. Let's take a listen to Lord Robertson saying that the UK is not prepared for war.
I spent the best part of a year working on the new government's Strategic Defence Review, and I can tell you now, bluntly, the conclusion of all of that work. We are underprepared, we're underinsured, we're under attack, we're not safe. Bluntly, that is the underlying message that we got. And the current conflict in the Middle East has to be a rude wake-up call to this country. On top of what we've already seen in Ukraine, it should remind us in the United Kingdom of our vulnerabilities. And there are many. The cold reality of today's dangerous world is that we cannot defend Britain with an ever-expanding welfare budget.
What a damning line. Let's get reaction from a good friend of the show, Tobias Ellwood, former Defence and Foreign Minister, ex-Tory MP. Hello, Tobias.
Good afternoon to you.
And Tobias, Lord Robertson has said the true bit out loud. This is a country that doesn't live within its means. If we're going to boost our military, we're going to have to cut elsewhere.
That's the frank conversation that he is now wanting to have. I mean, just place in perspective the fact that we have this announcement, this statement, very blunt indeed, saying we're under attack and we're not safe from a Conservative peer, not the Tory side, not Reform, not other politicians,
yes,
but the very person that actually spelled out the Defence Review. What is a Defence Review? It's a stock check of the threats that are coming over the hill. It's a stock check of our ability to contain those threats. And then it's a warning to say, what is the delta? What's the void? What's missing to make sure that we're safe? And he's been very bold indeed to say storm clouds are gathering again. War is on its way. We are not prepared. We need to listen. We need to listen to Lord Robertson. Some of us have actually been saying this for some time. And as he implies, the Iran war, I mean, we all saw what happened. We weren't even directly involved, weren't under attack. Look at the shocking state of our Navy, and the Army and the Air Force are in no better shape. And the character of conflict is changing. As we've discussed on your show many times, the gray zones, we're vulnerable. Cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, those undersea cables, that is where adversaries are today trying to attack us, to cause economic harm, to sow political discord. And this is about a national, difficult conversation about the fact that our global order is fragmenting, America is disengaging, and our adversaries are taking advantage of that. If we don't upgrade our defense and security posture, our economy will suffer.
Is defence spending as a percentage of GDP a red herring, Tobias, given the shrinking nature of our economy at the moment?
It is a crude yardstick, there's no doubt about it, but it is used in simplified terms to let parliamentarians and indeed the public know roughly how much we're spending, because when you compare it with other nations in the NATO family, you can see that over the last few months and years, we've slid down the table. Everybody else is spending more. They're preparing, they're improving their resilience and their defences.
Why don't we scrap the percentage language? Why don't we just earmark, Tobias, 100 billion?
Well, you can do, but ultimately you're then going to get other government departments, understandably, saying, "Hang on, you've just been discussing pushing back on boats in the English Channel." So the Home Office will then complain about that. The Health Department will then complain. It does need to have a bigger picture understanding. In my view, as we've discussed before, I believe that there should be a ring-fenced increase in taxation. It's not going to be a lot. It really is minuscule compared with overall taxation. It's the price of a cup of coffee per day that we'd all spend, those who pay taxes, to make sure that we are
Tobias,
safe.
you sound like a liberal Democrat. You're a conservative. You can cut the welfare bill, and that's where the money will come from, not an extra cafe latte a day. That's the language of the Liberal Democrats.
I don't think it is. It's the language of Reagan or Thatcher. It's the language of people that understand that the welfare budget, absolutely, I'm with you, needs to be looked at. The delta of how much we were spending on defense compared with welfare 3 or 4 decades ago compared with today is ridiculous. I'm going further than that to say, please, I'm with you. Let's do that. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. And we need to recognise what we're doing.
Oh, I see. So you think that taxes... But, I mean, if you look at the parlour state of the government's finances at the moment, Tobias, and you've got a keen knowledge of the economy, you know that if taxes go any higher, growth will further shrink. I mean, that's counterproductive, isn't it?
It is counterproductive, there's no doubt about it. But what's more counterproductive than seeing our economy being affected by the fact that our security isn't strong enough? And we saw how our economy, inflation, everything has been affected by a war we're not even involved with. Wait until people start to attack us directly. Then you will see what will happen to our economy. This must be the penny dropping, that we link our economy and our security. They are one and the same thing.
Yes, I completely agree.
Britain's GDP, half of our GDP is affected by international headwinds. We take an interest in 100%. International security. If international security falls, then our economy falls. There's no money in the pot for any government department, let alone defence or welfare or indeed anywhere else. But I'm with you on the welfare budget. I'm simply saying it's not enough. And I'm simply saying, let's take this out of being a political football and let's invest in our defence in a way that we've not done before. But we're going to have to pay for it, and let's be adult about it. So I do take it as a bit of an insult to be told I'm a Liberal Democrat. Far from it. I'm putting Britain's interests, Britain's security first.
Forgive my strong language at 3 p.m. Tobias, do you worry about the culture, philosophy and ideology of our governing party in relation to defence of the realm?
I do. I don't think we're really... I think we've enjoyed 3 decades of relative peace. I don't think we're really appreciating and understanding. I don't think we're going to actually see an investment until, sadly, there's an acute attack on Britain, and then there will be
Labour don't really believe in significant military spending, do they? Their heart's not in it.
Ironically, I'm going to be honest here to say that because they don't understand it as much as perhaps the Conservatives done over the decades, because there's been more military personnel that have moved into the Tory ranks, Labour have actually, the MOD has done better under Labour over the last 3 or 4 decades, oddly enough, than the Conservatives. That's by the by. We are here where we are today, and we know that you look at our Army, our Air Force, or our Navy, and they are overstretched. The platforms are decades out of date, and we don't have the personnel. And wider, the other domains of warfare that we're now having to get our heads around. Space security. We are so vulnerable. Our satellites up there are not protected. America has disengaged from supporting us up there. And then, of course, the grey zone I've touched on too. From the Coast Guard's perspective, they are overwhelmed. This is why I've actually mentioned national service. There needs to be a modern form, potentially, of national service that we need to think about over the next 5 to 10 years.
What a brilliant idea.
Look at what Russia is doing. In 5 years' time, Russia will be war-ready to advance beyond Ukraine. What are we doing about it?
I think
so
national service,
need to prepare.
That is one of the best ideas I've heard in recent months. I think it would be terrific for the youth of this country. It would prepare us for conflict, and I think in a societal sense, it would be very beneficial.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I get so much pushback. I should stress it's not.
Well, I think some of those youngsters that were steaming into a Marks and Spencer's in Clapham a few weeks ago wouldn't do too badly for 6 months of order and respect and discipline.
Well, that's, interesting. That is a byproduct of what a modern national service could do.
And skills.
Not only building your skills, your capability, but your own sense of self-esteem and a love of your country. These are things which I think, arguably, you get in trouble for saying this, perhaps are not the same as they were in yours and my generation as we were growing up. So, but more to the point, you need the national service, a modern national service would not just be Army, Air Force or Navy, though they may be many people who'll be utilizing skills such as cybersecurity, AI capability, drones and so forth. These are things not done in uniforms. These are things that a younger generation are actually arguably better at than you and I. We need those skill sets to defend ourselves because they're part and parcel of the package of a total defense that Britain now needs.
Tobias, deeply grateful for your valuable time. Tobias Ellwood is a former Defence and Foreign Minister, former Conservative MP as well. And he's very clear that actually budget cuts are not enough. You're going to have to raise taxes to secure this country. Dan's in Lancashire. Hello, Dan.
Good afternoon.
Now, what do you make of what Mr. Ellwood has had to say there? Because I'm concerned about any more taxes. What do you think?
Well, as I was commenting to your researchers on the phone, I'm wondering what planet he's living on, because if he says that it's going to be nothing more than a cup of coffee...
They all say that.
...to the average person, well, let's take a cup of coffee, £4. That's £1,400 a year for a cup of coffee every day. Take the average salary, 36 grand a year. You pay tax on 24,000 of that. That's £4,800. So I'm going to pay £4,800 in tax. And he's proposing a minor increase of £1,400. That's about another 30% on my income tax bill. That is not.
And also, as I said to Mr. Ellwood, and we love having him on the show, but it's counterproductive because if taxes go up anymore, you're just going to shrink the economy. Anyway, it just goes in the other direction, doesn't it?
Absolutely. To me, the money can only come from one place. Well, two, if we can get decent growth, but we need economic policies that will reflect that and drive it. But also, there's far too much money going down the welfare drain for people that shouldn't be having it. There's money that can be saved on stopping the boats and, well, I've got my theories.
Net zero?
Well, net zero, yeah. And I did have a question for you.
Go for it.
When did entering the country illegally stop becoming a crime?
Correct.
Because I believe under the Immigration Act of the 1970s, somebody who enters the country illegally can be arrested. They can be detained. Their phones could be confiscated and examined, so we wouldn't have ended up in court on a human rights case for taking away their property because they would have been arrested. Then,
yes. ECHR, Human Rights Act, the Refugee Convention, we're caught up in all of these this legal quagmire which makes it impossible for us to deport criminals and police our borders, Dan. And I think you've got to the heart of it, which is that if you can have the status of a criminal if you enter the country illegally, that's when it will stop. Because that's the point at which, Dan, you imprison those people before sending them back.
Well, I'm not even talking about imprisoning them. I'm just talking about arresting them, taking their phones, examining them for the information we want, then putting them on a coach, taking them to the nearest Air Force base, and I'm sure we've got some military transport aircraft, and that's how we should have been getting these people out to Rwanda.
Well, I'm sure Michael O'Leary would accept a little bit of a bung to fill up a few Ryanair jets.
Oh, he could do, but, I mean, and I'm not...
Although that might be a bit cruel on the migrants. They might get PTSD from Ryanair.
Well, that's true. I am a compassionate person, though.
I'm joking. I love Ryanair. Go on.
Yeah. Women separate out the women and children.
Yeah.
Right. All of those unaccompanied males, who are not children coming over, we should have been sending them out to Rwanda and say, look, you can claim asylum there. That's where it's going to get processed. But you're not doing it in this country and overburdening us and putting us in situations where our people are in danger.
Dan, thank you for a brilliant call. Common sense, wise words, well put, Dan in Lancashire there, who doesn't think that a coffee a day is a small increase in tax, and he's done the math to demonstrate that he's absolutely right. It most certainly is not. Taxes cannot go any higher because they are subject to the laws of diminishing returns. Taxes get to a certain point on the so-called Laffer curve, whereby the higher the taxes go, the less comes in. It makes no sense. Breaking news, sources have said the BBC is to cut 2,000 jobs as it tries to reduce costs by 10% over the next 3 years. This comes as the Times are reporting this afternoon that an internal poll has revealed that just a third of staff have confidence in the BBC's executive team. This has come out just weeks before the former Google executive Matt Brittin becomes the new Director General. Finlay, I'm so confused. It's 3:20. We're on Talk, which is an international broadcasting platform. And on today's show, Finlay, we've had two good news stories about the BBC. Right? The first good news story is that they've done some actual journalism and found out that crooked lawyers are tricking and convincing the authorities into granting status, legal status to migrants by pretending to be gay. So brilliant journalism for the Beeb. Now they've cut 2,000 jobs, middle managers no doubt. They're going to live within their means. Have the BBC woken up? What's going on? This is Talk.
It's pretty clear that the ceasefire, such as it exists, is not going to hold for very long. But, the thing that worries me, Julia, which you guys have been touching on already, is just the amount of misinformation we are being subjected to on an hourly basis every single day. I mean, the idea that Israel is just, like a lunatic bombing Lebanon for fun is complete claptrap. Hezbollah has fired tens of thousands of missiles at Israel over the past 2.5 years.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. Should we have national service in order to boost our military? That is a suggestion from Tobias Elwood, former Conservative MP who just joined me a moment ago. Trish is in Yorkshire, which is England's biggest county. Hello, Trish.
Hi, Mark. Hi.
Hiya.
Yes, I'm a great fan of yours, but I just want.
Oh, thank you, Trish. I appreciate that. I'm a great fan of yours now. You said that. I love you loads.
Oh, bless you. Listen, I've had a small stroke. You'll have to excuse me if I can't get all my words out properly.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, darling.
No, it's absolutely fine. Right, National Service. I knew that this was going to come sooner or later, and what I'm worried about is my grandchildren who would be eligible for National Service. If my grandchildren and all the others are called up for National Service, who is going to look after us that are left in this country? Is it going to be the boat people that come over? Because they're going to be the only ones that's in this country. What's going to happen? I mean, if they're eligible to fight as a fighting age and everything, why aren't they staying in their country and fight for their country like my dad did? He was called up. He wasn't called up. He volunteered at 19 to go in the Second World War. He was made a prisoner of war for 5 years, lost all his youth there. He didn't fight for what's happening in this country now. He would be appalled. But I don't want my grandchildren to be called up when there's all these... I can't understand what's happening to this country. We're being invaded. And it's worrying.
And Trish, some people would say that word invaded or invasion is inflammatory or even racist. What would you say to that?
Oh, I've got 2 mixed-race grandchildren. I'm not racist.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a daughter that's gay. And I mean, I'm not homophobic.
Yeah.
I fought for all,
Yeah. You're a liberal person.
So I am a very liberal. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
But I'm just, I can't see what's going to happen with, if we do need to do something about defence, because we haven't got any. But having this National Service, if we stopped all the fighting age young men coming over on the boats, then this country would be a lot safer.
And it does it feels like an invasion, doesn't it? Because there are people coming who are not supposed to be here, who enter the country illegally. It doesn't matter what language you use. It's wrong, Trish.
And we don't know who they are. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I mean, where are they from? And what age are they? And they're just sucking this country dry. I'm sorry, but they are.
And a good 50% will stay. And I agreed with Rishi Sunak, because when he was Prime Minister, he said if you enter the country illegally, you will never receive asylum. And I think that's the way to go.
Well, my sister, I lost my sister a year ago.
I'm sorry,
she brought up, I know, but she brought up her grandson. And she supported him all through uni, and he got a job where he could work from home in his bedroom on the computer. Now, when she knew she was dying, she'd lived in this council house for 46 years. It was pristine. You would not know it was a council house, as in it was well looked after.
Yeah.
When she died, he wanted to stay even by that, and the council in Emsworth would not let him. He had to move out. Luckily, he'd got a girlfriend, and they've found somewhere together. But then they've put, I don't know the nationality, but the immigrants.
A lot of foreign-born people filled up the property.
Yes, they did. And she'd had, I mean, it was straight across from the school gates, and the mother's parents used to come and look at my sister's garden. She loved the garden. And, I haven't been back there. I don't want to go. But what I'm saying is, and I know I'm babbling on a little bit,
not at all.
But I'm so frustrated with the way this country's going. It's not the country that I was brought up in. And I don't know the answer.
No, and I also wonder, Trish, whether or not, with I've got kids, and please God, I'll have grandkids. Is it going to be a country worth fighting for? Like you said, your relatives who were so courageous to protect our country, they'd be absolutely horrified now. Trish, just briefly, how are you feeling? Are you better? You said you'd had a little bit of a health issue. Are you feeling okay now?
Well, I've had a TLA, and I've got to, I'm on medication and everything. I'm going to be fine. Yes, life's for living anyway. I'm 79. I haven't got that much longer, but I'm still fighting the cause.
Well,
you know
you've
what
got
I mean?
to do it. You've got to do it. Well, Trish, I wish you well, and thank you for the kind words. And let's chat again soon. Give me a call, and please use this platform and this show and the channel to speak up for the next generation, you know, your kids, your grandkids, and the future of this country. Because, Trish, you still care. I care. Everyone watching and listening cares as well. I don't think it's over for the country, but I do think, Trish, it's 5 to midnight and it's time to get on with it. Victor is in Bedfordshire. Victor, I've got a second or two. How are you?
Not bad, not bad.
What do you think about this issue of immigration?
Well, people say, well, they say it all the time, return them to France, return them to Europe, whatever. And that's where the problem starts. I blame the European Union for the whole thing, because these people, they're travelling from, so they don't start off in France, they start off in Southern Europe, Sicily, Italy. They make their way right across to the north. No one stops them. And then they end up here. Because the French don't want them.
Of course.
Because France has taken a lot in the past. A lot of
a lot more than us.
And so has Germany.
Yeah.
So this unless they have words with the European Union, because they could deport them as soon as they enter Europe. There's no need to wait until they reach northern France.
Well, I think you're right, Victor. I think everything you said is right. And I think if Farage wins the next election, and if he wants to stop the boats, Victor, I think he's going to have the mother of all battles with the EU.
That's where it starts. Because the EU is like Labour, socialist, left-wing. They believe in free movements, open borders, that kind of thing.
Suicidal empathy.
Yeah. That's where the problem starts. It's all because what's happened, that they've actually returned people, and they've made their way back to England.
You couldn't make it up. The whole thing is just a joke, isn't it? Victor, brilliant considered thoughts. We'll speak soon. My thanks to Victor in Bedfordshire there, who blames the EU. Well, that is the root of it, because, of course, if the EU policed their borders, we wouldn't have the boat crossings. Can we stop the boats unilaterally? Will we ever stop the boats? Let me know your thoughts. We've got a full switchboard, lots of messages as well. So much more to get through. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, folks, the Duke of Sussex, who is on a trip to Australia with his wife Meghan Markle, said he wanted to be a better parent than his father, King Charles, on the second day of his tour down under. Harry said each generation of parents needed to be an upgrade as he compared his parenting skills to those of his mother and father. at an engagement with Movember, the men's health charity in Melbourne. Is this a slap in the face to the King? Let's get reaction from someone that knows Harry very well, his biographer, Angela Levin. Hello, Angela.
Hello.
Angela, it takes a lot to shock me, but I'm genuinely horrified by these remarks. What do you think?
I think they're absolutely awful. And it is another stop at a long trail to attack and attack and attack his father, the King. What is very strange is that he does this, yet he then, 5 minutes later, he can say, "Can I come and join you?" So it's a terrible mess. But I remember soon after that they left the royal family, Harry did the same story. He just keeps on about this story.
Yes, I think he was on a podcast in which he said that his father left a lot to be desired for his parenting duties.
Yeah, but he went back even further and he said, I was a small boy and I longed to be on a bike, and he never ever took me on a bike. That's the sort of father he was. So lots of journalists came back and there was masses of him with his father on a bike, with the father right next to his bike. This is the sort of lying that he does. And actually, if you think about the King as compared to Harry himself, and I did like him such a lot, but now I just think he's awful. He has children who are not allowed to see their family apart from Meghan's mother, right? He's a father who doesn't let anybody see the face of his children. They must by now realise that something is very odd.
It's not good. Yes, it's not good parenting if you don't let your children meet their grandfather, the King, and meet their other grandfather, Thomas Markle Sr. That's not good parenting.
It's very bad parenting. And so it's to make this sort of statement about his father that is no good is just nonsense. It's just unkind. It's just he wants people to dislike him, the King, more and more and more. And the King did like him. He liked him very much indeed.
Loved him.
His sense of humour and his way that he was in the army, all those things. But now his father is a nightmare for him, is an awful man for him. It's just absolutely extraordinary. I shouldn't say this, but I will. I'm a bit like that. I think it's Meghan who's taken away all the essence of, he might have a difficult father, but he has got a wonderful father as well. He's given him every, thing that he could manage. And he was the one who found Centable for Harry. It was soon after his mother died, and he was absolutely in the state, Harry this is, and he thought it would be lovely if he went out and did some work where, he could remember his mother because she loved children and if they were ill.
Charles helped Harry set up Centable, and he was also instrumental in the creation of Invictus too. It was only possible with his father, the King's blessing.
Absolutely. So there we are. It's very easy to say, oh, my father's no good. I've got to do better than my father because he was not good. It's like snarling at his father that his father wasn't right. But is he any good? No, he's not. He's absolutely appalling. And Charles never said, I'm marvellous, because he was very busy. He was working and maybe he wasn't the best father, but he certainly wasn't awful.
Well, he did his best. This was a single-parent family, and he was the Prince of Wales at the time. Diana tragically passed in 97. Charles had a massive responsibility, a huge burden. It's my view, Angela, that Charles loved Harry very much, continues to love him to this day, in spite of the attacks, the abuse, and the brickbats coming from his son. But if you look at the book Spare, Harry's been very harsh about Charles in that book. It's in black and white, characterising his father as someone who puts his own interests first, someone that treated him as a problem rather than a son, portraying his dad as emotionally limited, not affectionate, more concerned with reputation and institution than with Harry's pain. None of that is true. And like you said, it all sounds like it's been engineered from his other half.
Yeah. Because you can't change totally like that. You don't. I mean, you can be very fed up with your parents.
Right.
teenager.
What changed in 2016, 2017? What changed in Harry's life? 2 words, Meghan Markle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what she's like. I think when she wanted to get away from being with the royal family because she hated it, and now she's trying to get back, but she hated it, she had to persuade him. And what she did, she talked, because he was so much in love, that what he did, she would just say, they're awful. Look how they do it. You know, they don't give you enough money. You know, all that thing, money came into it as well. And she would just go raving on about that. And he just listened. Everybody was awful. That's why his brother and his sister-in-law and, you know, Camilla as well. Camilla was very kind to him. And he said awful things about him.
He characterised her, in the book Spare, she was characterised as the evil stepmother, which is really unfair. I know it's complicated. There were 3 people in that marriage. But after the passing of Diana, Camilla, you know, and Camilla and Charles have got a history. Charles is entitled to find romantic happiness.
Yes, but actually, when they married, the king and Camilla, Harry was very, very pleased. He was very, very nice. And he said very nice things about her. Look how she really looks after my father. It's amazing that he's so much happier. Boom, Meghan comes. She's awful.
Yes, and another interesting thing happened in recent times, Angela, in relation to Harry and his father. First of all, in the book Spare, he describes how sort of boring his father could be, banging on about history and expecting a long speech, which I think is very insulting. Charles is an interesting and knowledgeable man. His son should be proud of that, not ashamed of it. And also, let's not forget, Angela, that Harry, in a moment of complete insanity, blamed his father for the issues around his armed security in the UK.
Yes.
Oh, my dad can get this sorted. No, he can't.
Yes. Yes, he can't. He can't. Even if he's king, he can't. But listen to this other one. He was invited by the BBC to be on the Today programme, right? And he could take whoever he wanted for the hour. He could introduce them, talk to them. And the first one he wanted was his father. And so they sat at a table. It was so kind. They were so nice to each other. And Charles was saying, I'm sorry you don't always see. And Harry said, no, you've been wonderful to me. And they talked about all this and about the earth and all sorts of things. And when they went, they said, oh, it's been so lovely to speak to you, each of them. So suddenly that's gone. It's not gone. Why did he choose his father? They didn't choose him to make him awful, to make him say terrible things. He chose him because he wanted him to talk about all the things that he knew. And he said, I used to think I couldn't ever ask you anything. And now I realise you know so much. That's a standard thing. At 17, you say to your parent, you don't know anything. At 8, say, my parents have learned such a lot. You know, it was a bit like that. And I think that's, you know, shows again, why did he do it? He didn't do it to show him up. He did it because he loves him. And the wrong person in his life has told him that he can't do that. Only her can he love.
What's your appraisal of the Australian trip so far, Angela? How do you think it's going?
I have been tearing my hair out, actually. Well, nearly.
Has it affected your blood pressure?
Yes. I haven't taken it, but I can tell it because my heart has been banging and I've been pacing up and down my hall because I think that to have children taken from their bedrooms who've got bad cancer and they had to have big equipment by them, ashen, and they were put in a line so that Meghan could be easy for her. It would be easy for her to just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5 seconds and leave them there. How can you do that to children from a hospital? How can you do it? I don't know any of the other royals. They go to the bed of the child. They can be charming there, but that's too much because there's only one person. This way you can get rid of it quite quickly. How dare they do that? I just can't. I couldn't bear it, actually. It upset me terribly.
Well, I think this trip is going worse than I feared.
Well, I'm sure it is.
Because the Australians have been saying, you know, you've got leading politicians saying that the couple are treating Australian people like a cash machine.
Yes.
Others saying they're not welcome here. And of course, the row about their security, which will be shouldered in part by Australian taxpayers. They're not happy.
No, they're not. And actually what's interesting is that when they asked them if they were, you know, paying for it or not, they said, no, we're doing it. And then you realise, just as they were going in, they said, well, no, actually, you're doing it after all. You know, that sort of twisting nastiness is just awful. Why should we give them anything? I mean, Meghan's going to get hundreds of pounds for her clothes that she's worn. I mean, she's selling them off. I mean, why should we, the Australians pay for that? We should not. I mean, it's just extraordinary. And to me, this hardened way of behaving is actually so that when they move to London, which they're determined to get to, they're going to get there and they're going to get their way, because they can be as rude as they like, they can shout as they like, they can get hospitals to take out children from their bed just so that Meghan doesn't have to go into 2 or 3 different rooms. She can just stand there and give a phony smile. I mean, honestly...
You couldn't make it up, could you? Is it your view that the Sussexes wish to return to London permanently?
Well, I think they want to return to London for a while. I don't know, but I think they want to take over the monarchy. It's not just going there to have a nice time.
It's been your long-standing view that Meghan considers that she should be queen.
Yes, yes. Knock the heads off everyone else and you take over.
How could that set of circumstances be brought about, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, actually, you've been, I mean, you've said in the past, and you know the family intimately well, you've suggested perhaps that William and Catherine might be encouraged to step aside based upon family needs and health issues, and maybe that's the last hope that Harry and Meghan have got.
Yes, they have got that hope. Well, they haven't, because the son would be there unless he died as well, which I hope not. But this is what Harry has said. I heard him say it. And this is what... I mean, he went into his mother, the Queen, and he said, and he told me this, he said, it's absolutely appalling that Meghan doesn't do what Catherine's doing. Catherine has never had an experience of work. Meghan has had an experience. She's made...
What an insult.
She made herself what she's like, and she knows much more than Catherine. Now, you could say, well, you've got all the people who might be there in front of them. You know, he's just dream man.
Is there any hope of a reconciliation between Harry and his father, the King?
Well, I don't know, because I read all sorts of things. 1 minute, you know, the King is not speaking to him because he doesn't want to do that before there's court cases made him its end. And some people say that he loves him. It's very difficult. I think this blood between a father and son is very, very difficult. But William, son against brother is much easier. So he can say, get going and get lost. But the King loves his father, loves his son.
And briefly, Angela, with the clock against us, the tension between Harry and Charles has only strengthened the relationship of William and the King. They've never been closer.
Yes, that's right.
And they've had conflict in the past, and there were tensions over the affair and Camilla, and there have been times when William has been consumed with rage towards his father, but all of that appears to be water under the bridge.
Yes, because Harry's been so appalling, and Meghan, if she gets a chance, Harry would just do what he's told by her. We can't have that. We can't have that.
Angela, wonderful to have you on the programme. I look forward to our next on-air encounter. The doyen of royal journalism and broadcasting, Angela Levin, who is, of course, Harry's biographer. Lots more to come. Let's get back to our conversation on immigration, but we do have some breaking news, by the way. The Ministry of Justice freed 179 prisoners in error in England and Wales between April 2025 and March 26, according to government figures. That is the clown world that we now inhabit. is you've got prisons and people accidentally leave, including one guy that was an illegal immigrant who was about to be deported, and he was wandering around central London saying, where am I supposed to go? If the country's not broken, then seriously, I can't help you. Lots more to come. Let's finish our conversation on immigration with your calls. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? I've got some brilliant folk that we're going to hear from next.
It's pretty clear that the ceasefire, such as it exists, is not going to hold for very long. But, you know, the thing that worries me, Julia, which you guys have been touching on already, is just the amount of misinformation we are being subjected to on an hourly basis every single day. I mean, the idea that Israel is just, you know, like a lunatic bombing Lebanon for fun is complete claptrap. Hezbollah has fired tens of thousands of missiles at Israel over the past 2.5 years.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. It is 3:51. Is moving migrants out of hotels into the community the answer? Surely the elephant in the room is supply. When are we going to stop the boats? Gwyneth is in South Wales. Hello, Gwyneth.
Hi, Mark. Nice to talk to you.
Well, thank you for your call. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are, I wonder who's going to pay for it. When they're in the hotels, we, the taxpayer, is paying for all of their food, 3 meals a day and what have you.
Yes.
So when they then move into HMOs, are we still going to be paying for them to have 3 meals a day?
Yes, I think they will have what you call per diems, Gwyneth. They'll get an allowance every day for the equivalent.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Isn't it? Well, I'm sure because of human rights. Because the problem we've got, Gwyneth, is that if we plonk them in a house of multiple occupancy without a budget for food, they could probably sue the government for cruelty.
I was thinking that, but I was thinking, how are they going to do that then?
Well, human rights lawyers, legal aid. I mean, the whole thing stinks, Gwyneth.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
By the way, what's going on in Wales? Because I was quite interested to see that it's expected that Labour is going to be wiped out in Wales. Is that right?
I think it is. Anybody that you talk to thinks the same as well.
My goodness. I mean, that's the first time in living memory, isn't it?
For a lot of people, yes.
Yeah.
Certainly he's been, 24 years, I think, something like that.
Pretty wild.
Ever since devolution.
Yeah.
When Tony Blair gave Wales devolution, they voted Labour in. And, of course, in those days, it was very much a Labour place. But since the mines have gone and all that, not so much anymore.
Well, no. I mean, Wales is not a great advert for Labour's policies, is it? Whether it's health or education or the economy, Gwyneth.
Well, no, it isn't. I mean, the education's like up the spout, and the health service is not good, and just about everything else is not good. So yeah, it's not good. But we haven't got long to wait now. About, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, and local elections happen, and so we'll see what happens on the day. But everybody you speak to thinks that they're history. So we'll find out, won't we? But I think that might come as something of a shock to Westminster.
I think it will. I mean, Gwyneth, we're living in interesting times where Nigel Farage's reform could win Wales and could be number 2 in Scotland. I mean, who saw that coming?
Well, not many people, I think. They always put him down as like a sort of a one-hit wonder, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But they're very popular down here. I mean, in where I live, on the edge of the south coast, you know, the last election, the Reform chap got so close to the knocking out the Labour PM, or AM as they are.
Yeah.
Or is she a PM? No, MP. I get confused.
No, I know, in the Senate. I mean, briefly, Gwyneth, because I need to get to Georgina, but why do you think that a lot of people in Wales are taking the reform seriously and thinking of voting for them?
Mainly because Labour have made such a shower of it all. So the education is just awful. Health service is awful. The whole infrastructure of Wales is just falling apart. And it's just, you know, there's everything. Wherever you go, it's the buses, the trains, the roads, the schools, the lot, really.
And Wales is a great nation with a great history, with, you know, fantastic people, some industry. Wales should be doing a lot better than it is.
It should, yes, but they keep closing everything down. Like the steelworks in Port Talbot and all that sort of thing. And now they're talking about building some great big wind farms, and everybody locally is kind of going, no, we don't want any more of that. Thank you very much. Because you can't store electricity like you can store gas or oil.
Well, Gwyneth, you get it, I get it, and those that govern us don't. Lovely to chat, Gwyneth. Let's speak again soon. Have an excellent Wednesday afternoon. Georgina's in the capital. Georgina, the migrant hotels are gone, or are slowly being phased out. Problem solved.
Well, I think that moving migrants from hotels into the community is the mother of all bad ideas, Mark, and it's a ticking time bomb waiting to go off. You can't keep flooding and welcoming illegal migrants into this country when the long-term ramifications are going to be catastrophic. Apart from the illegality of their initial landing on our borders, you have to take into consideration the danger to the public, as we don't know anything about these invaders. We don't know anything about their criminality, if they have it, and they do not know anything about our country's laws or culture. The drain on our economy in keeping these unwanted visitors is gargantuan. And they are given free bed, board, phones, clothes, meals, spending money, recreational facilities, free medical care, and carte blanche to wander around our country as if they owned it. We're in no financial state anymore, Mark, to keep our own population safe. This government has far exceeded the welfare bill to the point that our taxes are no longer enough to sustain them. Our defences and infrastructure are depleted, and still these economic leeches are being welcomed by this humanitarian, woke, love thy neighbour government. It's totally unsustainable, and it's killing our economy, our culture, and our country. There are groups of these males wandering around our towns and villages with nothing better to do than ogle us our women and our girls and intimidate the local residents. As soon as these migrants are moved into your area, the property prices plummet, as no one wants to live near these people. They don't integrate, Mark. They intimidate. You cannot let your children play out anymore because of the fear of abduction or sexual assault, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility that these migrants feel free to let themselves into your home. We've had it happen here in London not so long ago.
We've seen the door cam footage, all the rest of it, Georgina.
Absolutely, Mark, this government needs to contain these invaders immediately. Upon their arrival, they need to be put in a secure unit and kept there until the background and reason for coming here has been investigated.
Georgina, I wish we had longer. Thank you for a fantastic call. I will catch up with you soon. Live at 4 is Kevin O'Sullivan. Good afternoon, sir.
Georgina, don't ever change.
No way.
She's amazing.
It's a crime to fade her out, but I've got to hear from the big man because you've got a big 3 hours coming up.
I have. We're gonna. Well, I've got a nostalgia slot to begin with. Now you know about two-tier Kia. We know never hear Kia. Do you remember, in the mists of time, free gear Kia?
Oh yes, I do.
Well, he's at it again.
Oh no.